Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Slot One Super Podcast. We are back for episode 48 of the podcast, encroaching on that big 5-0, baby. We'll be getting there eventually, but of course, as per usual, I am joined myself, Dokkan Assets, by the lovely Minato's Flash and Masked Ningen. Say hello, boys.
You know what we should do, right? It'll be really fun. It'll be a nice little Easter egg for the live audience. We should start over again from the beginning because I forgot to press record, and it's a huge pain in the ass if I wait until afterwards. Because otherwise, you know, I've got to wait till tomorrow to download the VOD, and then the quality's not as good.
Chat, so... this guy does this like at least like once every 2 months.
I know. I literally have an alarm.
Unbelievable.
I literally have an alarm set on my phone to remind me to record the podcast that went off like 2 minutes ago, and I still forgot to do it.
Gosh, you goofy!
Hey, but see, it's a fun little bit of behind the scenes. See the experience you guys get when you come out to watch the show live. So.
We started like a minute late because we just started yapping and we're like, wait.
See, that's why I forgot to do it. That's why I forgot to do it. I got distracted. All right, so reset everyone places. Okay.
All right. Well, anyway.
Hang on, 3. I'm gonna hit the button. So 3.
Oh, you actually are doing this.
No, I'm actually gonna do it. Yeah, why not? Why would we wait till tomorrow now when I've already made this interruption? Why would we wait until tomorrow?
We're just gonna do it right now.
Right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Slot One Super Podcast. We are here for episode 48, ladies and gentlemen, approaching on the big 5-0. Of course, I'm myself, Dokkan Assets, and joined by my lovely two co-hosts, as per usual, Minato's Flash and Masked Ningen. Say hello, gentlemen.
Yo, how's it going? It's happy to be here. Yeah, exactly. Happy to be here for the first time today.
My gosh. So welcome back, everybody. Hope y'all are having a good day. We have lots of fun stuff to talk about. I have to acknowledge it because half the chat is saying it. Yes, your boy got the fresh cut. I finally got my haircut. For those of you who are unaware, the whole purpose of the reason I was growing my hair out is to donate it to Locks of Love. So my hair was finally long enough to actually have the length to donate it. So I was like, it's time. We're getting it all cut off.
I'd forgotten about that. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool.
Thank you. To be honest, the beard was just being lazy. So that part was just being lazy. But while I was at the barber, I was like, you know what, boss man? Just shave it all off. Just get rid of it.
Guys, what if I show up next week without a beard? Nah, I can't.
Dude, that'd be crazy.
And then be like, Ningen.
You're next, buddy.
Ningen, it's your turn.
Oh, man, that would be funny. But yeah, so thank you, everybody. I appreciate everything I'm seeing in the chat. I do look a lot more like the profile picture now than I did before. To be honest, this is a little short. Like, I got a little bit of fade going on the side, and it's very short on the top. But give it like 2 weeks, and it'll be basically exactly like the profile picture. So we'll be back to fit form soon enough. But regardless, moving on from my cranium, let's go ahead and talk about the stuff that released on Dokkan this week. We're going to obviously go over JP first because we have like 2 things to talk about, and then we'll move on to all the fun stuff that is coming out for Global. Yeah, no longer Doc Brown though. That's right. So, for JP, right, we had the release of the brand new Dokkan Festival. Of course, that being the AGL Master Roshi, as well, or AGL STR rather. Sorry, Bulma is the AGL unit that I'm thinking of. And obviously, this was the brand new Dokkan Fest unit. This Master Roshi with a very interesting unit. He's got an intro, he's got an active skill, obviously a normal super attack, and he has 2 unit super attacks, one with Bulma, which is kind of funny because the Bulma in the scene that the unit super attack is from is not Bulma, it's Oolong being Bulma in that scene. So it's kind of funny that it's Bulma, but obviously, like, it's not going to be Oolong in the game.
Yeah.
And then obviously they have one for Goku and Krillin, which is pretty cool. So it is a pretty interesting card. I know a lot of people have been talking about this guy. I know initially people were kind of saying he was just all right. I know it seems like now the general consensus that he's pretty good. So that is very, very great to see. Bless you, Minato.
Thank you. I had to mute for it. He wasn't going to sneeze all up in the.
You good. And so obviously this is basically just the monthly Dokkan Fest that is between the Tanabata celebration and the worldwide celebration. Now I'll hand it over to Minato in 2 seconds to give us a little bit of rundown on the unit. But the one thing that I did want to mention about the banner actually is that this banner, I'm on my fighting for my life that the banner ain't that bad.
I was gonna say, is the LR Jiren banner all over again? Yeah.
Yeah, except this one, it seems like people have been a little bit more like, yeah, that's fair. I'll also, so because this banner, right, it has the AGL Bulma, it has Roshi, obviously, and then Fizz Topo is also on this banner.
He's back already,
yeah, which is. Yeah, so that was my first thought when I saw the banner. I like blinked because I was like, wait a minute.
I was expecting Topo.
Yeah.
So I'm like surprised you guys are surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I'm like, yeah, Topo's
it just seems like it should have been like 21 because she has been a fat minute. I don't know. I know she did, but like it's still, I don't know.
Bro,
it feels
like we got Frieza back already. What do you mean 21?
I guess that's true. I don't know. Either
21
way,
came back on. Didn't
yeah,
she?
She did.
Rosé's banner for JP, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Rosé's banner. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it was Golden Week for Global. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so Topo return, which is pretty cool. I'm kind of disappointed, to be honest, and the only reason why is because I don't have enough coins to get him, because I coined all the copies of Beast, which is fine, but I got a Broly dupe, which has screwed me over in getting which has screwed me over in getting Topo, because I spent like 600 stones on him when he came out and I didn't get him. So hopefully I can accumulate enough coins to pick him up before the banner goes away, because I really want to get him. I'm a Topo stan, one might say, but besides Topo on the banner, Godku mentioned, of course, is on the banner as well. And then the rest of the main units on there is Int Yamcha, the Path to Power Kid Goku, and STR Videl. Gee, I wonder who's going to get an easy A this celebration. I wonder. So this banner, I don't really think is that bad, right? Like, I don't think it's anything like nutso, right? Like, we're not talking best banner in the game or nothing like that, but I still think that this banner is definitely pretty decent. Obviously, you know, Topo's solid, Godku's still really good. You know, Yamcha and Kid Goku both, I think, are usable, right? And obviously Videl will get an easy A. I mean, hopefully it'll be good, right? I mean, I guess we don't know that for sure. But hopefully with the, you know, track they've been going on for the easy A's, it'll be pretty good. So very nice, right? I think this is a decent banner for them to stick in between Tanabata and Worldwide. It will be interesting to see when Global actually gets Roshi, because, you know, this is just adding one more character now to the list of ones that Global won't have. But we do have some information about that a little bit later in the podcast. But with all of that being said, Minato, why don't you tell us about Master Roshi?
So, I think Roshi is pretty good overall. I actually pulled Roshi yesterday. I was able to awaken him and I used him a little bit. I mean, that's me using it just real quick. I wasn't even able to link level him just yet. But I think he's good for sure. I think the thing about Roshi is a lot of people, I think it's just people who are thinking of how bosses kind of operated in even closer to like the beginning of the year, especially because I know a lot of global players are getting are finally getting a lot of the like difficult bosses. I mean, I think Ningen said that Global finally got like Blue Gogeta, for example, right? You guys recently got started up Trunks, but you don't have like also the Supreme Magnificent Battle for the Universe Rival Saga, right? And that will come with UI Goku probably next week, which is kind of crazy. We'll talk about that, but but the thing is that so many of these bosses, like Roshi cannot tank the hardest hitting supers in the game. Like they're just flat out, he cannot eat those. If he gets targeted with them, he will likely die if it's like a 3 million plus damage super attack. Well, maybe more like 3.5, 4 or 5 million. Like some of the super attacks hit that hard. And especially if you consider like type disadvantage, that boy Roshi is getting cooked. Because he only has a 50% reduction, gets to around at most a mil defense. And the thing about that is even if you're like you like from a 3 mil damage super attack, this Roshi will still take like 600k damage, right? Give or take. But all these bosses have super high chances to super, right? And I think that's the thing that people aren't accounting for when it comes to Roshi, is that he's a slot 3 character. He's a floating support Dokkan Fest character. So he doesn't necessarily have to be the character that'll always tank super attacks. That's not his role. The role of a character who would need to survive or live supers is a character that's designed to be in slot 1. This Roshi is not a slot 1 character, right? Even in slot 2, right? It's way less common to see a super attack in slot 2 than slot 1. But in slot 3, it's like you rarely see that unless it's like potentially early on into a fight. Then I guess you could see that in some situations because the super attack chances aren't really as high as like against Sword of Hope Trunks. He has I think it's a 60% chance to super attack you. You have Beast Gohan, who has a 30% chance to super attack you. You have Blue Evolution Vegeta. I think he has like around like 20 to 30% chance. Like these characters are getting like super high chances to super attack you. Even some of the God of Destruction bosses, like one of them has like 100% chance, and he just always super shoots someone. Like that's just how it works, right? In order to make these bosses super hard, they're giving them super high super attack chances, but at the same time, even though they get super you before you even attack, slot 1 super, the podcast name. Anyways, that will allow characters like Roshi to be very safe. And that will basically, that's like the main issue people in the community have with this Roshi is that, oh, well, he can't tank supers. Who cares, dude? He doesn't have to worry about that, like in majority of the time. And let's say even in a boss like Blue Cow Ken Goku Evolution Vegeta, that fight, right, where he could double super, like in that fight he has type advantage, right? If you think about the actual bosses in the game, he'll have type advantage there. Golden Frieza 17 fight, he has type advantage there, right? One of the hardest fights in the game. And then it's like you get into the 17 you get into the Goku and Frieza phase at the end. It's like, well, Roshi is gonna be at the end, he's gonna be able to tank the normals with the amount of defense plus damage reduction he gets. So that's not even a worry. Then at the same time, Roshi's providing 50% support to Turtle School and Pepe Gals, right? Pepe Gals not that great right now, but Turtle School providing that 50% support is crazy. He has just a free, it could be turn 3, but a free at the most. A turn 5 free 50% heal, key support, and multiplicative 30% support on top of his 50%. And that 30% support will still apply to any character, even if he's not directly supporting them, which is really crazy. And he could end up doing some pretty decent damage, right? The damage numbers I saw from 55% in level 1, you can get him up to like 8 mil, and then he could do multiple supers in a turn, and it's like that's not bad at all, right? I don't know, I like this Roshi quite a bit, and I think that he will work out. I'm not gonna say he's like as crazy as let's say Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku, because at the end of the day, characters like that could really carry the team are likely going to be rated better. But I think Roshi will be a character that'll age out potentially some of those characters like that, because he's someone who's helping the team, and like the type of role he is as a floating slot 3 support, eventually those characters will still be in relevance, like with the characters that are designed like Roshi, that will eventually, when he's in slot 3, he's still relevant, will still probably be in a higher relevance than someone like Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So I guess Super Saiyan 3 Goku has like 90% reduction turn 1. So
Yeah.
I guess that's another thing
Yeah.
too. Maybe him in specific. Well, I age Roshi, but someone like Physical Rose or someone like AGL Final Form Frieza. Like I think those characters, he's around like Physical Rose level, kind of. Which I used to hate a Physical Rose, but now he's in a way better spot.
Yes.
Roshi is good, so that's all I have to say regarding him. I will get more usage of him. Maybe I'll, like me personally, I'll go through ahead and do a stream, and I will try him out there. But yeah, that's all. That's
Sounds good.
really the max things I have to say with Roshi. Well, I also want to point out just really quickly, his leader skill could be a little better, but that's just because DB Saga isn't really the greatest. But I think Pappy Gals is gonna get 2 new characters at the end of the month, or in the middle of the month. We'll see. On that, like there's gonna be a Pappy Gals banner. Then I think we could see a Super EZA for Kid Goku. We could see Esther Vidal gonna be ZA, and then it's like Roshi's team could end up being really good. We already have the Y Gokus on that team, which is awesome, right? But it just needs a little more of an oomph there, like a little push. And I think we will likely get that, so that's gonna be good.
Gotcha.
All right, that's all I have to say.
Perfect.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Minato. Do we have anything to say about Bulma, or is Bulma just kind of like there? I'm not even
Yeah,
sure.
I think
you tell me.
I saw some people saying that her, like, if she's actually really good, and if her support was, if she was a different character and it was like a different category, people would be talking about it more. But I can't even remember what she does, to be honest.
It's just another situation where characters that are releasing that aren't on global, especially during an anniversary, people aren't going to be talking about too much. Bulma is a good character. I think people just don't really necessarily understand how exactly she works, but essentially, she's kind of like a slot 1 version of Dispo, but a little more defensive. I don't know. That's weird to explain it, but I don't think there's another character that builds up dodge by dodging, if I'm not mistaken, except for Ajo UI Goku at the top of my head. Yeah. But what happens is she has a high chance dodge baseline. Then every dodge she gets 5% extra chance to dodge. That goes up to 20%, but that stays permanent. So once she dodges 4 times, she is at a 70% chance to dodge. But then she also has an additional 10% chance to dodge before she receives an attack. So until she's hit, she will also have another extra 10% on top of that, which means that essentially, like let's say turn 1, she has 60% dodge chance and can build up to 80%. Then if she gets hit during any of those attacks, she'll go back down another 10%, and at bare minimum be at 70% chance dodge, so which is pretty good. She has support, 50% support for DB Saga, what's it called, Warriors Reason Earth, and then the Pepper Gals team, right? So, or I guess that I use the JP name for it because the global name is like Earthbred Fighters. So
Earthbred Fighters.
Yeah, she's a Rainbow Orb Changer if there's 2 Earthbred Fighters characters on the team as well, and she's basically just kind of like a slot 1 mega dodge character with the 80% chance to dodge she can get built up, which is pretty good for the team. But it's like you do have to build her up, so she might not be able to be like a turn 1 character that can be in slot 1 because of that, which is the only real issue I have with her. And she gets a lot of stats on super attack. She gets 180% attack and defense on super. She has 86% attack and defense on her super attack effect, which is pretty good. Again, she also seals, which is a nice little effect, but it's like she, like turn 1, she's doing a lot of stuff for the team, which is nice, but turn 1, she could get caught, right? And you kind of might have to run her in slot 2, which kind of hurts, especially because I feel like turn 1 could be super important in a lot of fights. I mean, we've gotten back to kind of like a shorter fight meta for the most part. Like the only fight that's long, right? There's 2 fights that are long right now that would say are still difficult, which is the Blue Gogeta fight, and then the what's it called? Like the top fights, Goku and Frieza fight, right? But then it's like we have Kid Buu, Cell Max, Blue Falcon and Evolution Vegeta, and a bunch of different fights like that are like 2 face fights, or one face fight, maybe 3 face fights sometimes that are still like turn 1 performance is really important. So that's my only thing with her, and I still think she's a really good banner unit. But I would say, like, I feel like in terms of like best banner units, Dispo is probably like a character that would be better than what Bulma is.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I believe besides Roshi and Bulma themselves, we do have a little bit of content that we can talk about, because I know we didn't talk about some of it last week, and I know that obviously since Minato wasn't here for one of it, we can also talk about that. And we also have the pink zone to talk about too. But before, well, I mean, I guess that's what we're calling it, even though it's not really that difficult an event. But either way, though, before we get on to that, yeah, it's a funny little name, you know. Before, obviously, we get to all that stuff, though, just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that if you want to help support the podcast, right, don't forget all of your questions and comments and super chats and all that good stuff will be read out at the end of the stream. So don't worry, we aren't forgetting about you. We're just saving you for the end. Gotta save the best for last, right? But anyway, so let's talk about some of the new content. So let's talk about this this pink zone, as it were.
Doki Doki Heron.
How are we feeling about this, Minato? I don't really have much to say, to be honest. It just kind of feels like another event to beat and get stones, really. But
that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, like, I don't.
It's
No, I was just gonna say I don't really think it's anything crazy, to be honest.
Is it actually like
red
zone level, or is it like
no?
Okay.
So these fights are gimmicky. So like, let's say, I'll just talk about the 3 stages. There's the Pan stage, right? She hits for 750k in her super, right? She could and she attacks like twice a turn. And the thing about her is that you can't damage her though. She has 100% damage reduction. She can't be hurt. You have to collect rainbow key spheres to fill up a bar, and then once you fill that bar up, I'm pretty sure the event you just like win it, if I'm not mistaken. I think that is how it works. Let me double check here.
It's kind of unique though.
Sure.
Right?
So it
like
is
a little
unique.
bit of a different way to play the game.
Yeah, and that is pretty cool, right? But you have to make sure you do it in a certain amount of turns, or else you end up losing. So you got to be careful there. But yeah, you could also stun Pan and seal her. So it's like sometimes she just can't even super you. So that's cool. Ran Fan right here. The thing about Ran Fan, actually, it's really weird. The stage lists stage 2 versus launch for some reason, but it's supposed to be versus Ran Fan. And I wonder if there was a mistake. I don't know.
Interesting.
Anyways, stage 2 versus Ran Fan. With her, you lose 5 key, and then you just have to super attack her a bunch of times, right? So all your characters go minus 5 key, right? And once you super attack her a certain amount of times, she enters, like, she has 3 different phases where you have to keep super attacking her to fill the bar. Then once you finish all of that off, you just automatically win. She hits for about 875k on a super. She does have a pretty decent chance to super, like a 28% chance, but again, you could stun her, seal her, etc. Then there's the fight against Chi-Chi, which can't be stunned, she can be sealed, and she works like a lot of these, like the Beast Squad fight kind of, but she actually, any damage that's lower than 5 million is actually 0 damage. So you want to make sure you do more than 5 mil damage on your attacks, which, you know, that could be kind of annoying. And this is a stage you have to use Roshi in for one of the missions, or like a Roshi character. So you gotta, like, let's say, I don't know, you could bring the tech Roshi, right? The one that came out with Kid Goku. I feel like he'll probably easy this celebration. So maybe he'll be like one of the really good characters in this fight. But the new Roshi would be fine here too. It just, don't put him like against someone or anything. She hits for about 1 mil on her super attack. So like, this is only stage 3 against Chi-Chi, right? She's hitting for 1 million, which is not, again, anything crazy.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like we're eventually going to get a Mai stage, an 18 stage, a Bulma stage, maybe a launch stage, right? So once we get all those different stages, it's possible that, like, you know, what if Bulma is hitting for like 3 mil and then she could super you instantly before you attack, right?
That'd
By the
be
time
crazy.
we get to like that last phase. It's possible, or maybe Bulma's just hitting for like 1.8 million and then, you know, you could stun her or something. Like we can't say for sure. But I like this event just because you kind of have to, at least for the first 2 phases, you kind of do it a different way. Chi-Chi just kind of gotta like attacker really hard with the hard hitting characters, but yeah. That was fun. It was fun overall. Just nothing crazy.
Yeah.
At least as of now. So we'll see what the future stages are like.
It'll be interesting. I do hope, I will say, like, this is something I think we've even talked about on the podcast, to be honest. Like, it kind of makes me a little bit hopeful that they might just potentially implement some stages that are a little bit more like unique in this regard, where it's like it's not just survive and do damage, right? Like, it's a little bit more like, it kind of feels like they're trying their best to implement something that is not just like the normalcy, you know what I mean, with what they can do without having to implement a whole new like game mode or like new mechanics or anything. So I think that's cool as well. Thinking on the box. Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
It is really awesome that they are doing that. I think yeah, just like it's like a good thing to have in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And also, it's just like somebody was saying in the chat, it's also like medium difficulty content sort of thing, where it's like, it's something that people can beat, even if you aren't like necessarily at the end game content, basically. But anyway, I guess that's it for JP at the moment.
I think so, right?
I don't think we talked about the God event last week.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, is there much to touch on besides just a quick mention?
Yeah, what are the, because to be fair, I don't actually know anyway, what are the new stages for it? Because
yeah, so I did actually end up playing them through the past week, right? I did it on stream, actually, funny enough. So there's the 3 stages. There's 1 God of Destruction Co-op 1, Cooperation 2, and Cooperation 3, and you fight 4 of the bosses in each of the stages.
Right.
Just to talk about it, I think stage 1 is like, if I had to rank the difficulty between all the different stages, I feel like I would probably go stage 2. Seems like it's probably the hardest to me. I think stage 1 is probably the second hardest, and stage 3 is probably the third hardest. It just really depends. So stage 1, you fight Moscow, which is the guy with the AoE super, just instantly turn 1. He's a little squishy though, so you could, like, he only has 50 mil HP, so you could like get rid of him fairly easily. Catella is the tech like rat boss. He lowers your defense. We have Sidra as a third fight. He lowers your attack, right? And he has a 50% chance to super. So you could just like super you instantly, like in turn 1, with a 0 cooldown. Then we have Rumshi, which is the elephant guy. And then he could super you. He will always super you instantly. 100% chance to super. So he's always going to super you instantly. He lowers his defense by 40% and stuns you. So whoever is in slot 1, if it's not a dodge character, they get a 40% defense debuff and are stunned. So they can attack, right? All these characters hit for about 1.7, 1.8. Moscow hits for 1.5. So that's why I feel like this is probably the second hardest fight. The second fight is against Hellas, which is the one that changes her typing. She hits for about 1.7 mil. She can dodge. Beerus lowers your defense by 40%. He hits for about 1.8 mil. He also has, actually, it says 1.8 mil, but he actually does have an attack increase. So he hits for closer to like 2.6 mil or so, from what I'm understanding. And he builds up attack 5% with each attack that he receives, like Kid Buu does. Doesn't seem like there's a cap either. So, like, if you're attacking him a lot, he will start hitting harder and harder. Champa doesn't really do anything. He gets a little tankier with each attack he gets, but nothing crazy. Then we have Belmont, who could lower your defense by 50%. He could lower your attack by 30% or just hit you like harder than the other super attacks, right? Again, around like 2 mil damage or so. He could have a 50% chance to seal someone to the start of turn, right? So that's why I feel like this fight could be really annoying. There's a lot of defense lowering going on here. There's some dodging, sealing, right? Annoying stuff. Then the third fight is against Iwan, Arak, Liquor, and then again, I'm reading out these names as if you guys know who these guys are. And the only really interesting thing to me about this stage is the fact that the it's like the Fox God of Destruction, the one that was able to super you twice. He's tech. The thing about him is he could double super you, but he has a cooldown of 26 attacks. So he lowers your defense by 50%. And obviously, it's like you can only attack 11 times in a turn. The reason why he has that is it seems like it's to counter the like giant form. It's like Orange Piccolo. He supers you during the Orange Piccolo phase, but then like Orange Piccolo, unless Orange Piccolo lasts, I think the 3 turns, like he's only gonna attack you 22 times in those 2 turns at most, because he only has 11 attacks a turn. So then when you exit the Orange Piccolo form, unless you get the 3rd turn, and then he attacks you 33 times, in which he could do the 2nd super, you still will have the 2nd super when you exit the giant form.
Okay.
Which is really odd. I don't know why he specifically has that. I guess maybe they're just testing it out. It is very weird though, because like it's not like Orange Piccolo is like, he's still really good, but he's not like that relevant anymore. Like if they introduce a boss like this, like in 2023, that would have been kind of crazy. But I don't know. That's it. That's the only interesting stuff about him. It took me like a good like 3 minutes or so, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that being said, moving on to Global. Now, obviously, Global has had a lot of shenanigans going on as of recently. Some good and some really good and some questionable. So, first of all, in terms of stuff that some questionable, in terms of stuff that is already in the game, obviously this week saw the release of UI Goku and Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta on Global being their easy A's. These two are, oh man, like if you want to talk about peak fiction now, peak fiction wrapped up into a unit right here is what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. So this is probably, I would say, easily like the most anticipated easy A's of this celebration. I mean, even like, I know for me, obviously, when they came out on JP, I was just like ecstatic and used them for literally every event, and they just like clear every event easily. And not to mention, like, even when I ended up getting to, Global and playing some of this anniversary content, I know I kept being like, oh, let me throw UI Goku and Blue Evo on the team. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. We ain't that far yet in the celebration. So I'm so glad that they're finally easy now. These units are like, I don't think it's an understatement to say they might be the best easy A's of all time. Like, I don't mean that in terms of like what they do in comparison. I mean like the boost that they got and just how good they are, in comparison, obviously the time they came out and everything like that. They're crazy. They are like, some of the best units in the game at the moment as well. So, Ningen, being our resident global player with these guys finally coming out and you being able to get your hands on them and use them, what are your thoughts?
Finally, I know, right? Like these are, I did a bit of messing around with stuff on the private server when the anniversary was happening on JP with some of the new units, but these Easy A's were actually one of the things that I didn't really get a chance to use actually hands-on. So them getting Easy Aid and then being able to use them now on my account, obviously for me, they're both long rainbow, link level 10. So having them fully maxed out, ready to go. Yeah, it's definitely been an experience. This is one of those things where it is kind of fun to not have seen everything from the JP side and like not have played with them before they came out, because getting to experience them post EZA just on your account on some of these teams, like, oh boy, like I knew they were good. Obviously people were talking about them when that EZA came out on JP, but goddamn, they are very, very impressive, very powerful units. The funny thing is for me as well, the numbers that they do and the things that they're doing in game are super impressive, even just straight off the bat, right? But I think even in the runs that I've done, I've taken them into a couple of the more difficult stages. I actually still haven't had a run where someone on the team has revived, which then they get an even bigger boost after that. And even without that boost, I'm already like super impressed with the stuff that they're doing. You're saying about like in terms of how good of an EZA they were when you think about what they were originally. I mean, how much can we say about this next level redemption for Vegeta, right? Because it's like the anniversary had barely even ended, the 6th anniversary, and people were saying that Blue Evolution Vegeta sucked or was like underwhelming or like hadn't aged well, whatever. But like with his Easy A, he is absolutely incredible. Haven't had any complaints of him so far. I need to do it as a video because I did it as like a just for fun run, but one of the teams that I actually really like using him on now is putting him on that Tech Vegeta team from the Saiyan Day, because that team has a couple of really good units, and then I feel like there's a couple that are you can kind of take a risk on certain units depending on which events you want to run. Characters like the STR Goku Vegeta that fuse, and then whether you want to throw in like Future Gohan or Sword of Hope Trunks or something like that. But now that this Vegeta is an option to throw on the team, he's super good, because now that that team has him, has Broly, they're all getting supported by King Vegeta, who I still think is like top tier banner unit. I had a very smooth, like no items clear against the Blue Zone Beast Gohan with that Vegeta team, with Vegeta on the team. Super good. I really like the fact that they've done a few little things to fix some of the key issues with these units, which is, you know, as we've talked about in the past, one of the things that makes a good Easy A is the fact that, like, one of the things that was always a little bit disappointing with them is that the active skill was always kind of underwhelming in terms of how much damage it did. So now they've given them this buff where they get a massive attack buff and a guaranteed crit when you use the active skill. And also if you get 24 ki, which is really nice because they both build up ki as well. So yeah, you've got these guys, even on rotations where they don't have their best link partners active, they're dropping like 20 mil attack stats, 50% chance to crit as part of their passive, but if you get the ki, it's guaranteed anyway. And then as soon as they start doing additional supers, that crit from their super attack effect stacks, so they just do guaranteed crits on all the follow-up supers anyway. So yeah, these guys are really good. The only thing, I guess, the thing that still stands, I suppose, like the meme will live on forever, I guess, is that UI Goku, even with that dodge chance, like early on, if he's not dodging, I guess, in slot 1, if you're putting him in slot 1, that can be a little bit of an issue. But so far, I haven't had him sell out for me, which is good. I do like the fact that he builds up dodge with each dodge he gets. So I think he has to dodge, what, like 4 times, and then he has over 100% chance to dodge. So once you've dodged 4 times, that's it. He will just dodge if there are more. It's rare that you get 5 or more attacks in one slot, but yeah, as soon as he dodges 4 attacks, all the rest are guaranteed dodges, which is really good. So yeah, been really fun using these guys. Obviously with the Blue Zone, we got the Gogeta and Beast stages. Gogeta has that powerful comeback mission, which of course is Vegeta's leader skill. So that mission with double Vegeta leads was super fun. But yeah, just overall very impressed with these guys, especially the Vegeta. His glow up is legendary, shall we say, because he was just so like mid, like even just not long after release. I feel like in terms of anniversary headline characters, I feel like he's probably the one in terms of just how the community overall like rated him, who probably dropped off a cliff like the fastest.
Yeah.
Right, because we weren't. I swear we weren't that far out of the 6th anniversary, and people were already calling him like mid, especially compared to UI Goku. So the fact that he's
remember that,
yeah, the fact that he's now arguably better than UI Goku, I think is cool. Because like one thing I've noticed when doing some of these runs, it didn't get me killed or anything like that, but it was while I was doing the initial showcases for them, is Vegeta doesn't have like an HP restriction for his revival ability, which UI Goku does. So there'll be turns where you could have Vegeta's one active, and then on the next rotation, like you won't have Goku's one active, and then could potentially die, because whether it's UI Goku's fault or not, like if he's dodging, someone else on the team could get hit by that super or something. Whereas Vegeta's one's super easy to get. So if you are having 2 Vegetas on the team, depending on how you're running it, I think I did like the burst mode that we got for Topo, for Jiren, with like the android's lead for the 200% with Vegeta on the team, but then just like a Vegeta friend. Have a Vegeta in slot 1 on both rotations, get that revival condition unlocked, and then you're pretty much like smooth sailing, because you are not at risk of dying at any point. And then once the revival does happen, that's the thing that I think is really good as well, that they gave these guys that preferred revival setup, right? Where it's if anyone revives on the team, they get a buff. And then if it's them that gets the revival, they do get like an extra special, like 1 turn bonus. But that's also something it's very, I think we talked about this when they came out on JP, but that's really reassuring for the future for EZAs for characters that have a revival, that they can throw in this, like, if someone else revives, like, they still get the buff. Because obviously some of these units kind of end up dead in the water if somebody else on the team revives instead of them. So yeah, overall, super impressed. I think they're really good. Been enjoying using them quite a lot. So yeah. Absolutely good stuff. I mean, that's the thing. We all kind of were in agreement. All the anniversary EZAs were all very well done, and
absolutely,
yeah, these guys are awesome. So
good.
Yep,
I am glad to hear
that is true.
What's up, Minato?
I said that's true.
Oh,
I mean, Age UI Goku is really good. I think that they did a great job for him, just in general. I would say, when it comes to how they have Age and GP, they are very good. I would still personally argue that these two are better than Tech UI Goku individually in terms of their overall performance. I like them better than Tech UI Goku.
Okay.
Even though, because it's a thing where it's because Tech UI is transforming, and it's turn 5 from his start of turn. So AGL and Blue Evolution are just off the rip throughout most of the fight. I think in a better position. I would also say, I think with how the events have kind of turned out on GP, with again these events being a lot shorter, I actually might like UI Goku better than Blue Evolution, just because the thing about UI Goku is he's turn 1 just guaranteed dodging, and I think it's very easy to build him up. I feel like Blue Evolution Vegeta, you need to build him up a little more, even though he has a turn 1 guard really good. I feel like there are certain bosses that even like early on could like still do some decent damage to him, especially if they instantly hit him with a super, because he has to attack and receive attacks. Once he's built up, and especially once he has the revive, I think he's in a much better position than UI Goku. It's just that UI Goku is much more suited for these shorter fights where you don't need to necessarily build up as much. And you could get UI Goku's revive even on his first turn, right? Because of the fact that it's just an HP condition. So like, it's not impossible to consider yourself being under 77% HP. Like, let's say you get hit with a super attack instantly the turn before, and then you enter the next turn, you're under 77% HP because the super hits you for like 200k damage, or even like 250k damage, or even like if you get hit really hard, 400k damage, you're for sure getting that revive, right? So I think that's a very useful thing. And yeah, I like UI Goku Blue Evolution both a lot still, though. I think they're really strong. They have just so much to them in terms of just overall power, right? And it's like they're not doing anything like team protecting or anything too mega special. They're really just their strong defensive mechanics that really makes them shine out. And I think, dude, when you get Tech UI Goku and you could get his domain up, and they get a 30% attack boost, like you see UI Goku Blue Evolution consistently hit like 30 mil plus attack stats just on their 24 key. Then they get their additionals, and it's just like they do insane damage, man. Another thing is that Tech UI Goku, he has the 77% chance to dodge, right? With the first turn, AJUI, my bad. With the first turn of Tech UI's domain, he'll get 87% chance to dodge instead. Then you can still build up to guarantee dodge after that. So, like, AJUI is just incredible. Blue Evolution Vegeta with the revive that'll always be up. His still very strong defensive prowess. It's a thing of where you could argue he's just going to be potentially more consistent tanking actually these attacks than UI Goku, right? Amazing, right? These two are just great. I could talk about them all day. I feel like.
Yeah, that was something I forgot to mention. Yeah, that definitely shouldn't be underrated, is UI Goku having guaranteed dodge on turn 1. I can't remember which event it was I loaded into, but it was one of the Blue Zone stages where I was just messing around, like not for a video or on stream or anything. And I loaded into like the first turn, and all of the attacks were in one slot. So it's like, well, I'm just going to put AGL UI Goku there, and now I don't have to take any damage in the first turn. So
it's just so useful because it's just like, even in terms of an aging thing, like this guy is gonna be relevant for a very long time. I mean, people used AGUI when the androids came out, and he was still doing his thing as long as he dodged. So now that he has a turn 1 guaranteed dodge, it's just gonna allow, I think, EWI especially to just outage so many characters that are out right now. He's really good. And again, I just think he's better than Tech UI overall. So yeah.
Absolutely. I can understand that sentiment in the way of, like, for sure, it's definitely, like you said, like the transformation, I think is what is really the kicker, is that it's like, if it was just MUI from Tech, right?
Yeah.
Then, like, sure. But
I think if it was just UI Goku, like in the domain state, he would be the best unit in the game, in my opinion.
Like, bar none, for sure. But because it's just, or because not because it's just, because it is also, you know, like the transformation, then, you know, there you go. You have a GL UI coming through and, you know, cooking up a little bit.
For me, I have AGUI as like the 3rd best unit in the game, pretty much, right? It's right under Cellmax and Beast Gohan. It's like I have Beast Gohan, Cellmax, UI Goku, Blue Evolution, then Tech UI. Then, you know, we can get into other characters in another percent. But yeah.
I don't even think that's like the thing is too that I feel like is really nice about current, like, you know, statuses of all these units and stuff like that. Is that, if anything, like, I feel like there's not really a wrong position to put these characters in. You know what I mean?
I think the most important thing is that I think a lot of people agree in the general semblance of who's the best character in the game. Like, if you say, I like Tech UI better, I see his domain all the time, and he always finishes these boss off for me, and I feel no danger with him. Sure, you know, if you think Blue Evolution is still better because of the fact that his revive will always be active once you get those 5 hits, which you can get that turn 1. It's like, sure, you know, I see that. I see the point in, like, a lot of these characters.
I see the vision.
I think the only argument I would have is putting anyone above, like those 3. I would say you could shift around. I feel like I think Cell Max is like a little comfortably better than the rest of this 3 though, but that's a whole other thing. He's not coming to global or anything, so not really relevant to the discussion. But yeah,
I got you. Yeah, it is. It's awesome to see that these guys are really good, and obviously, I would think, with how good they are, they'll probably be staying relevant for quite a long time. I don't think that there's really much, like, debate on that.
They're the type of characters that will survive power group jump.
Yeah, I would say so.
Like, we get like that. If you got like a 250% leader skills and then like 8 million damage bosses during year 10, like they're the type of units that will live through that power group.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. It's very nice having been able to use them, and it's cool too, I will say, right? This will be the last thing I say about them before we move on to funny enough, we've been talking about Tech UI. The other thing that I think is really cool about them too is, for a lot of these, like, big boy LR EZAs, right? You might not, obviously, if you're a whale, like, sure, but, you know, we're talking like even like guppies and general players, and sometimes you just get unlucky, right? I feel like for some of these units, you might not have them rainbowed when they, like, you know, these LRs get like an EZA or whatever. And so I think it's really cool that these two, being as powerful as they are, feel like some characters in the game that most people probably have quite a few dupes in, if not rainbowed, just because of how many times they have returned on banners. And also, not just like that, but I mean, they were literally on these, you know, banners.
I was going to say, the fact that they're both on Beast's banner is really good,
I mean, it's really weird because they're also on Tech UI Goku's banner. So I don't know if they're going to change Tech UI Goku's banner lineup on Global.
That's what I was saying on Twitter.
I was going to say, when we get to the Tech UI bit, I was going to talk about that,
Which I guess we'll get to it right now. So,
the one thing I wanted to mention,
we have a little bit more to talk about than just Tech UI in regards to.
Very quickly, because I did see someone mention it in the chat. These guys came out with the Part 3 stuff, including the 77 ticket banner. But Global had a weird occurrence, which I saw. I can't remember if it was Annie or Luca was saying that apparently it's because of a bug that happened on JP that might not even be relevant on global anyway, although because they've done that in the past. They delayed the Beerus event getting the extra stage by like a week. But for some reason, they've already taken the stage down for the preparation period. So the part 3 stuff started, and some of the missions for getting those final tickets for the 77 ticket summon revolve around you using Beerus like as an LR. And so, of course, everybody who, for some reason, waited until the very last day to farm up Beerus, like his event's not there, so you actually can't do it. So you can't get the last of your tickets. But yeah, that event does come back. It comes back on the 8th, which I think is Wednesday. And obviously the ticket banner, I think, or the Thursday even. The ticket banner will still be up. It just means, unfortunately, you have to wait until it comes back. So yeah, I've seen people having various different reactions to that on social media. Some people going crazy about how this is such a massive global fumble. And then one of the things that I have seen, which I do think is funny, is I've seen some of the same names, whether it be from like streams or on tweets and stuff like that. People who were complaining that the anniversary was dead and there's nothing to do. And then they're like, oh, I didn't farm my Beerus. Where are my free tickets? It's like, well, all of those days where were complaining that there was nothing to do in the anniversary, those are the days where you're supposed to be farming the free-to-play units. So this is why, like, all of us talk about, like I said it in my own videos, like, when part 1 starts and that event comes out, it's like, farm your, 3 copies of Beerus, 2 at SA10, 1 at SA5. When the medals come out, get them all awakened to TUR, like, straight away. Then get them awakened to LR, like feed the 2 together for the SA20, and like then you don't have to worry about stuff like this. Now, obviously, this has never happened before. Like, the event should have been available on the day that the stuff all came out, because it does suck for people who had to wait. I know not everybody is playing the game all the time, and obviously on the day that the new stuff comes out, like the day the anniversary starts, farming the free-to-play units is probably not your top priority, but at the same
Definitely
time,
not
now. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's the thing, is there have been those, quieter periods where, that's when you have the chance to get that stuff done. Because we all know every year now, essentially, that getting the free-to-play characters fully awakened and easy aid and stuff like that, that is always part of the missions to get those tickets. And obviously it's a free summon.
Even though it wasn't this year.
No, yeah, you didn't actually have to get them like fully easy aid. Yeah, I think it was just for using Beerus as an LR, so you actually didn't even need to easy aid him. You could just use him pre-easy aid. Like, in fact, doing his Extreme Z area, you have to use him on the team. So in the process of getting his medals, you actually complete all the missions for actually using him as an LR. So, but yeah, that was something I thought I'd point out, because I did see someone in the chat ask if the event was coming back. So it is coming back. Yeah. Unfortunately, not until next week, which means if you hadn't got him awakened already, you do have to wait for your tickets. But you will still get them. The ticket banner is still up. So it just unfortunately means you have to wait until next week. So
what's funny about that too? Somebody in the comment section of one of my tweets, was like, oh, excuse me, Dokkan Assets, I can't seem to be able to get the last tickets because the event is not up. Can you help me? And I just retweeted it with that Thanos gif of "I'm sorry, little one."
You see, because it's funny. I don't know why it was taken away from global, because I forgot the exact reason that they said it. It was the same for JP, because there was a bug with the the special skill orbs, right? The skill orbs, the special skill orbs.
All right.
There was an issue with that. Was it the same on global, or did they just take it away for no reason?
No, as far as I know, it's just down for no reason. I'm not sure. Like, they delayed. Apparently they delayed the addition of the new stage, which is the one that you get the skill orbs from, because they didn't want to have the same bug as JP. Which would be fine. Like, delaying the release of the stage isn't really a huge issue, but it's the fact that they still took down the stage, like, at the time they would have to have prepared for the stage coming out the next day, except they took it down and the new stage doesn't come out for like a week. So the event is down for a week for no reason, when realistically it could have stayed up and they could have delayed the new stage coming out until next week and then just taken the stage down the day before for 24 hours like they normally do. But for some reason they took the stage away the day part 3 started, and it doesn't come back until next week. So yeah, if you haven't awakened him yet, you just have to wait. I know. I know. Hopefully this won't happen again.
Bro, I thought we were done with this, Global. I thought we were done with this nonsense. Come on, bro. What are we doing?
It's like one last time for old time's sake, right? Before
I got one more in me type beat, bro. For real. That's crazy.
Global moment.
Oh,
I mean, I don't know. It's so weird. I don't get it. Like, did they not fix like a bug with that, or did they just want to match the time?
Yeah, I don't know.
GP.
See, they don't want to sync everything, but they want to sync the bugs, of course, yes.
Speaking about the
I was just going to say, so now we can move on to what was announced yesterday, which, of course, there was a couple of things that were announced in terms of stuff that came out on both Global and JP, or both Global. Well, technically, actually, yes, that wasn't even, that is true, actually, now that I'm saying that out loud. Because, right, not only yesterday did we get some announcements about how the sync is going to be handled. We got some information about the stuff that they are not going to be syncing, like basically the things that they can't, right? Like, some of the information that's different between the versions and, like the character typings and stuff like that, like PyCon and Super Kaioken, right?
It's interesting they mentioned that, yeah.
It is interesting, but I guess that's good because that would be like a question that would appear in a Q&A later. And so they're kind of just like, it seems like they're basically just covering their bases almost with that, like just already being like mentioned essentially. So that's pretty cool. But obviously the two main takeaways from the whole thing were that there is going to be a new summoning system that is going to be implemented soon. Apparently they are in the final stages of working on it at the moment. And it is basically going to be, so obviously since right now, Global and JP kind of have a little bit of a difference when it comes to the, like the tickets and the discounts and stuff.
Yep.
Obviously, to be able to make it fair between both versions, they're implementing a brand new summoning system. Now, what that means, we have no idea. If you see anybody on Twitter tell you they know what it is, don't believe them because they don't know. Quite literally, there is certainly speculation that you could make, based on some context clues and, based on just like information that we know. But again, as we always like to say on this podcast, do not assume anything with Dokkan Battle after the Rose incident, right? There's nothing that we can assume. Dokkan is a Wild West. So when it comes to that front, just keep in mind, right? We do not know what it's going to be necessarily. However, obviously, it's going to be something that is in an attempt to make the difference between Global and JP similar, right? So to be seen what that will be. I do think it'll be interesting, whether they decide to make that like putting tickets on JP or whether they decide to maybe have it be something like with how the system was for the first half of the Global anniversary. Right, only time will tell on what that will actually be, right? And I like I said before, they said that they're in the final stages of development, so we'll get an announcement about that eventually. The other thing too I forgot before we get to the main big kahuna is they also did mention that all characters that are not on Global right now that are on JP will be coming to Global by the end of the year, which I think is really interesting that they said that specifically, and that also means for you funny Global players that you're going to be getting a lot of units crammed down your throat by the end of the year.
Oh boy,
because not only do we have what we're about to talk about, we also still have Topo, we still have Cell Max, right? And so Jiren as well, which we'll talk about him a little bit later, right? Obviously now Master Roshi too. So there are quite a few units that are on JP that are not on Global yet, but thankfully, assumingly so, For the rest of the year, the characters, obviously, because they said worldwide is when the sync is going to begin. Obviously, there isn't going to be any new characters after Roshi that won't be on global, right? So we're basically like locked into what we got now. And of course, after all that being said, the big piece of news that we received from this is that obviously a lot of people were thinking that Topo was going to be next, because right, we had that little leak from the App Store that was like a little bit of an advertisement for Topo, and it just kind of made a little bit more sense. It sort of felt like that, you know, that it would not be a character as big as UI Goku next. But obviously we now know that UI Goku is going to be the next unit that will be coming to Global Dokkan, right? Which is pretty crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, this is pretty insane. This is unprecedented, I would say, honestly, in the history of the game, right?
Yep.
There really hasn't been something like this that has occurred. And to be fair, it is also kind of a case of like, well, we're in a very unprecedented time for Dokkan. You know, the game never thought that it would be syncing up. So it makes sense that some, you know, a little bit of funny shenanigans like this would be occurring. But obviously we now know that Tech UI Goku is going to be coming next to Global, which is going to be brutal for global players.
Tell me about it.
Because obviously, yeah, going from Anniversary to UI Goku to Worldwide, and then potentially even Dragon Ball Daima right after that. It's going to be very interesting to see in terms of what's coming up for Global. So, once again, our favorite global player, Mas Ningen, what are you thinking right now? What's going through your head, bro?
Oh boy. Well, there's a few things going through my head as I sit looking at my like 300 stones on global. With the fact that this guy could potentially be out as early as Monday. That's the other thing, right? We have no idea when he's going to come out yet, but they said early August, which, I mean, it's early August now already. So who knows that we could literally see in the news tomorrow morning, literally like, what's the time now? It's 9 o'clock UK time. So like 10.5 hours from now, we could have the new stage of a Dokkan Fest is coming soon, like teaser in the news, because then he'd be out on Monday. Because somebody in my stream earlier today, I don't know if this is just confirmed from somewhere or anything, was saying that Topo is potentially coming out on the 12th, which is a Monday, just over a week from now. So if UI Goku dropped on the 5th, it would be like the Monday before. It's like the week before Topo. So I don't know. We don't know when he's going to drop.
That was my investigation.
Okay, I see. Someone reporting back Minato's findings, I see.
So the reason why I was saying that Topo is coming on the 12th is because the sales were ending on the 11th.
Right. Okay.
So it's like be the 12th for most people, the 11th at Pacific time. And then we know he leaves on the 24th Pacific time. So with all that in mind, the 11th to the 24th is like the 12th to 24th basically is pretty much a 2-week time frame, which is how long banners last. Usually banners last for 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. UI Goku, what happens is Rick did report this. The scrolling image in the home screen actually that promotes the producer's letter scheduled to go away on August 5th at the data download time the producer has. So that's not a data download time. At a time that banners would drop, I believe.
Yeah. So potentially
on August 5th. So that's when we think UI Goku could drop, but there should be a data download before then.
Yep.
What's it called? Or Rick is saying that the date here is when UI Goku's Dokkan Battle teaser could show up in game. I'm thinking that he's gonna show up next week. I'm thinking the 5th. But we'll see.
Because if the teaser's tomorrow, the teaser's always 48 hours before, isn't it? So if the teaser is tomorrow morning, then it means he's dropping the 5th. Because the banner times for me are like 7:30 in the morning. So the teaser would be out tomorrow, and then then it would be him dropping on the Monday, which is crazy. Considering that we're still technically in the anniversary. Like there's other anniversary content in the news that's coming out after the 5th.
Because they did say that he was dropping, like his celebration will be during during the anniversary, coinciding it. So it's not going to be from the 11th onward, right? So I'm thinking it's going to be the 5th, 6th, 7th, around that time frame. But then like Topo comes on like the 12th or something. It's like they're going to want to at least space by weeks. That's why I'm thinking the 5th. They could do a special data download like during this weekend. They don't usually do data downloads during the weekend, but it's possible just for this specific circumstance. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. It's possible that they drop the Dokkan Fest teaser and the details like tonight, then they do a data download tomorrow, like maybe, or like they could even do the data download first because they already announced all his details and stuff like that, and then they could drop the teaser and the Twitter details tonight. Then like what if they do all three of those tonight, and then
that'd be crazy
tomorrow or on the 5th, like you release. Like who knows, right? They could realistically do that. They don't have to abide by the rules that they usually do, right? If they don't want to.
I mean, they ain't gonna be for this.
I mean, like this is a special thing. Topo, I'm still thinking comes on the 11th and 12th, just because they usually give the 2-week time frame for the banners. So even if the sales weren't ending on the 11th, 12th range, right, depending on your time zone, Topo's banner still is up until the 24th, and I'm thinking that banner will be up from the 12th. UI Goku's banner will probably be up from the 5th to like the 17th, 18th or so, and then the 21st should be when we get the worldwide download celebration countdown. We'll probably start getting like teasers for the worldwide download celebration on like the 7th or something like that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff is gonna happen next week. UI Goku's gonna drop. We're gonna get the EZAs for global. We're gonna get whatever EZA coming to GP. We're gonna get the first worldwide download celebration teaser. Then, like at the beginning of the week after, we're gonna get Topo. There's a lot that's happening in the next week, so we gotta stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
Because the worldwide download celebration teaser last year came on Wednesday the 9th, so it could be Wednesday the 7th.
True.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to say about it as well, which I think are quite funny. Because we had this conversation, obviously, when Tech UI came out, and we were talking about people's thoughts on whether he was the new best unit in the game or not. You know, a lot of people kind of lean towards transformed Tech UI Goku is potentially the best unit in the game, but obviously he's a transformation. You don't get the transformation until turn 5, so you have to look at the unit as a whole overall. But one of the things that I do think is funny is, even if you are one of those people that's in that camp where you have the consideration for like UI Goku is either better than or at least on the same level as Beast, it kind of just adds this really weird sort of like energy for global, where it's like global players have been waiting 6 months for Beast Gohan to come out. He's like the best unit in the game. Everyone's been waiting for him, saving all their stones for him. His banner comes out, everybody goes crazy, dumps all their stones to summon for him, and then literally like a week later we get the unit who's potentially like his rival for being the new best unit in the game is coming out already. Like, so his time as being the undisputed number 1, like obviously some people like will still say that he is, which is fair considering the transformation for UI, but like if you're someone who thinks that Tech UI is number 1, it means Beast Gohan got to be the best unit in the game on global for like 2 weeks and then that's it, we got Tech UI already. So but yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's very strange, right? Because there's definitely mixed reception and like mixed feelings on global, because it's one of those things that we all knew along the line that like for the games to sync, stuff like this has to happen, right? The content that global doesn't have needs to come out in like a short space of time so that the 2 versions can catch up. But obviously looking at it from the perspective of a global player and, you know, from the wallet of a global player, it's like we're going anniversary into Tanabata into worldwide celebration, which then after the worldwide celebration, because the everything will be synced after that, it's then only like 4 months and then we have an anniversary again. So it's absolutely insane on global at the moment. Like
the funny thing, oh go on.
I was just going to say, like, I did my summons for the part 2 banners as we talked about last week. I got lucky for Beast. I didn't get the Gammas. I saved and I waited and did my 77 ticket summon on the Gammas banner. Still didn't get them. I got one of those, you know, like, you know, when you get a summon that like if you were actually missing some of the units, it would be like a super good summon. but you actually have all those units rainbow, so it was terrible. In my 77 unit summon on the Gammas banner, I got 6 of the Carnival LRs. I got like 3, I think it was 3 AGL Gokus, 2 Bird Kus, and a Future Gohan. So any of those 6 could have been the Gammas in that multi, but I already have all 3 of them rainbowed, so the multi was actually not good for me at all. But at that point, I was kind of already decided. I was like, I'll do my 77 ticket summon. If I don't get them, then I'll just have to, you know, say goodbye to the anniversary with no Gammas and just start saving the stones for whatever's going to come next, which we thought would potentially be Topo after that teaser the other day. So now it means that if UI Goku's dropping on Monday, I am in a similar position of a lot of global players where I've basically used all of my stones on the Part 2 banners, and now Tech UI Goku's coming out in like 3 days potentially. So it'll be very interesting to see what they decide to do, because we do have those 3 EZAs. We're going to talk about them in a little bit. That's like 100 stones in one day. And in the news they also mentioned, which I don't know if they've ever mentioned this in advance before, but they specifically mentioned in the news on Global the like special thank you reward thing, where they just like put a thing in the news that's like, thanks for playing the anniversary, like here's some stones and stuff like that. But they specifically announced in the news that that is happening on the 8th, which is the day a bunch of that other stuff comes out. So, you know, we can speculate, people can get their hopes up potentially too much, which happens all the time. But I would expect that that's probably going to be at least 50 stones, hopefully 100, but who knows, maybe more. So potentially they could use that as a way to kind of balance out this sort of like, hey, you know, there's tons of banners coming out soon. Here's like, you know, 200 free stones or something like that. But the thing that's funny about it is if UI Goku does come out on the 5th, all of that stuff doesn't come into the game until the 8th. So like his banner comes out first, and then there's a bunch of other content that comes out that you can get a bunch of extra stones. So it's definitely going to be very weird timing if he does end up dropping on Monday morning. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see, because obviously for me, like, you know, as a content creator, I want to get all the units anyway for videos and stuff like that, but he's definitely a unit that I want. The anniversary with all those EZAs and the ones that we now know we're getting as well that are from the Tanabata content, like the Reps of Universe 7 team is insane once we've gotten all these buffs. So obviously if you're a big fan of that team and those units in general, you're going to want to get Tech UI Goku. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to be sure. But yeah, unfortunately, like I say, they have to do that stuff to get the games to sync, right? Like the content has to come out at some point. And unfortunately, it means it's all going to be like squished up a little bit, but that is how it is, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's going to be a little rough for a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, right, is that I think it will be okay as long as, right, because really I feel like there's 2 outcomes, then one is so much worse than the other. If they give out a lot more stones because they know that people aren't going to have stones to summon, right, then I feel like things will be a little bit better, right? Like if they actively, and it's clear that they, you know, give out like a lot more stones than they usually do, then like I think we'll be chilling. You know, obviously it's still not going to be like the same amount that people would have maybe normally, but it'll still be better. You know what I mean? However, they could just do a funny and not really give out that much more and then be like, hey, spend money.
Well, yeah.
You know, so
I feel like there's going to be something special.
Yeah, I would hope that they understand like the gravity of the situation. I mean, I would think that they would, right? But I guess we'll have to see, right? We'll see what happens. So either way, though, yeah. So very interesting, right? Obviously, very interesting time for global on that front. Hopefully, global players can still get their hands on Goku and get lucky. I don't know. I mean, it would be cool. Maybe they even like give them a little bit of like booster rates or something.
Could you imagine?
They would actually do that.
They won't. They won't do this because they like money too much. But could you imagine if, in order to catch all the games up, they actually put in like temporarily, because we all know they're limited number ones and they don't transfer between banners anyway. Could you imagine if his banner drops on global on Monday, but it has pity coins?
Dude,
that would be insane.
So.
Like, I don't think it will.
I'm
don't
thinking,
get me wrong. Like, I don't think it would happen, but man,
I'm just wondering how they're gonna handle sales.
True.
Like, because there's already the Beast Gohan sales up, and then like it's weird because the sales are gonna end when Topo is expected to drop still. So, what are they gonna do for sales? Are they gonna? Because I don't know if Global's gotten the shop screen renovation just yet.
I
Let me
don't
take a
think
look
so.
here real quick. Did Global get that yet? Because JP just got that.
I don't think so. No,
I don't
The
think
shop
so.
screen modification has not come yet.
No.
It's possible that they make that shop screen modification. Like, what if that's like an update that Global gets like next week, and then it's like UI Goku drops that same week, and it's like, I don't know, that'd be just like such a short time frame, maybe. But I wonder what they're gonna do. Are they gonna maybe they'll just put special peel off tro packs, and then like they just have this Dragon Zones in there, and then it's just like kind of similar value to buying normal packs. That's really the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, the thing is, though, like, the other thing you have to keep in mind, though, is that it's also, like, obviously we're talking about it because, you know, like, spending money. But also, what about the people who just can't spend money?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you're a free-to-play player and you saved up for the anniversary, like, you're going to be out of luck.
Right.
What I will say is that there is still a lot of stones in that celebration. I mean, technically, you're getting the easy A's.
Yeah.
Three of the easy A's, you're getting part of the 9th anniversary. I think that Global is also going to get the sub easy A's, or the sub easy A's, which is actually another Extreme Z battle. So that is 120 stones. If you get the new Supreme Battle Spectacle fights, right, with the Universe Survival Saga, that's another like 50 stones. It's only still around like 250 stones in that celebration, which is not a lot, you know, but for like what a celebration usually gives, it's a decent amount. There's also going to be the reward bonus that'll come around the same time. So I'm not sure what they're going to do exactly. I feel like there's going to be some really good discounts. What I think they could do is they could give the special summon format that the Part 1 banners had to UA Goku.
Yeah, that would be nice. I think, honestly, that there's a bunch of different options that they could go with, right, that would really, like, you know, be able to give people a good buff that the banner should have, considering, you know, just all the shenanigans involved with everything. But only time will tell, my friends. We will find out what they actually plan on doing later on. But for now, let's move on to some stuff that Global is also going to be getting later, right? That we know in the game, that Global is going to be getting 3 EZAs, some EZAs early, 2 of which were anticipated by the community, 1 of which was absolutely on left field. So we have the EZA coming up for the Team Universe 7 and the LR Golden Frieza and Android 17. Both of these EZAs are insane on JP, and they just recently came out, which is kind of cool that Global is already going to be getting them, right? So it's very exciting because obviously that just means for Global players, it'll just be more content to be able to do, like we were saying, for the stones. But not only that, it's also more units to run on all of these teams, right? To run on these like superhero teams. Well, not the superhero team, because unfortunately they aren't on superhero, but
good work, Frieza.
Yeah, thanks, Freezy Pop. But you know, it's more stuff to be able to do, and obviously more stuff for Tournament of Power, I guess, would be the best way to you know, like, put that. But regardless, though, that is super exciting because obviously those EZAs are really, really good. But the thing that is honestly getting most people is seemingly like, huh? Right? Because obviously, you know, we already were kind of thinking that maybe those guys would come, is that they decided to throw in the Tech Jiren EZA, seemingly out of nowhere, right? Now, obviously, Tech Jiren just came out on JP, right? He just released with the new Jiren celebration. And so a lot of people are thinking that, what does this mean? Because, you know, this is just another thing that is now being stripped from all the current celebrations that are on JP, right? And so on that perspective, it's certainly curious how they're going to handle it as well, right? It also kind of is making people think, well, okay, when is Jiren going to be actually dropping? If they're deciding to drop his EZA now. But right, that sort of remains to be seen. We'll find out when that's going to happen, right? Kind of when it happens, type deal. But for now, obviously, in terms of the EZA itself, Ningen, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, so this is interesting because, like, obviously, when it comes to the Universe 7 Team Universe 7 EZAs, isn't it nice when you predict something and it turned out to be right? Like, I feel like, don't get me wrong. Whilst I could celebrate and bask in my big brainness, but I feel like it was fairly common sense, right? With like building up towards the sync, they've been taking little bits out of every other celebration potentially, like a lot of the stuff from Rosé's celebration. So the Tanabata celebration would have been a good place to take a bit of content as well to move forwards towards the sync. So like I've been saying since these guys got their EZA on JP that these could be the two EZAs that we get at the end of the global anniversary. So I definitely am happy with that, especially with all the buffs that we have gotten for the Team Universe 7 team. Like, even if UI Goku wasn't coming out, obviously the fact that you could run Blue Evolution Vegeta or UI Goku with their EZAs, and they have a Team Universe 7 180% lead, which is more than good enough with how powerful all these units are. Because, like, that Team Universe 7 build now is basically just all LRs. Like, that team is crazy.
Yep.
And then, of course, with, you could run the int TOP androids as the leader if you wanted for the 200% leader skill, but the 180 is more than enough considering how powerful those units are. And, of course, the icing on the cake is that we're going to get Tech Goku. So even if you don't summon for him, you can run your int Blue Evolution Vegeta or AGL UI Goku as the leader, run a Tech UI Goku friend, and then that team is going to be, like, insanely powerful still. So that is definitely very, very cool. But yes, the Jiren one is the surprising one because the thing that is the most surprising about Jiren's EZA is, like, obviously his EZA is technically, a Tanabata EZA. So it coming out with other EZAs from the Tanabata celebration isn't necessarily a surprise. It's more so the fact that his EZA obviously feels very tied to LR Jiren, right? Because he is another differently named Jiren that you can run them together. So of course on global, his EZA coming out now, especially because we don't have Topo yet, it means like he doesn't really have a team like on global. Obviously you can run him with some of these other, like with the reps of Universe 7 characters if you're running a leader that is just general Universe Survival Saga or some of the other categories that he's on. I can't remember if he's on either Powerful Comeback or Miraculous Awakening. I don't know if he's on either of the the 6th anniversary EZA teams, but yeah, it just feels weird for him to come out without AGL Jiren. So of course, as you mentioned already, and I had his picture here ready to bring up too, is of course that now just adds more speculation for like when is he going to come out, because for global normally the Tanabata unit doesn't come out until sometime in November. And then last year, we waited until like February to get Omega, who was the Part 2 LR from the Tanabata celebration. So it really makes you wonder how long it'll be until we see AGL Jiren. Because until he comes out, I just feel like Tech Jiren, even though his EZA is pretty good, it just kind of feels like you don't really have a great place to run him until that AGL Jiren comes out. Right. So at the end of the day, I'm happy to get the EZA early, get the extra 33 stones, but I can't see, for me personally, like where I'll be using him much until we get like Topo and AGL Jiren. But it's definitely good that we're getting it. Like we'll take that extra content, gets us closer to having all the stuff that JP has, get an extra few stones a little bit earlier than scheduled. So that's all good. But for him as the unit himself, it feels a little bit that he's kind of being released a bit too early to have his spot, like his time in the sun kind of thing. But his EZA is good enough that as long as they don't wait too long to drop the LR Jiren and Topo and stuff like that, then obviously he'll still be good, like to run on that team. But but yeah, 3 big EZAs for the end of the anniversary on the same day as that, like thank you gift thing. Like that should be a lot of stones incoming. So Yeah, so I mean, it's cool that it's coming. I'm more excited about these two guys, especially the Golden Freezer and 17. They're in the same boat as we were saying
so
about.
good.
Yeah, they are literally in the same boat we were saying about Blue Evolution Vegeta, where like they came out as an anniversary, like Part 2 Yellow Coin LR, and nobody really thought they were very good, even on release. And now they've gotten an Easy A and they're actually crazy. So that's what we like to see from these Easy A's. So yeah, definitely exciting stuff for Global in that respect.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for our global players to be able to use those characters as well, because like I gotta be honest, when I use the Frieza and the like 17 and then the Team Universe 7, I was thoroughly impressed, honestly. Not that I thought that they would be bad, but I was just like, wow. These guys are nuts. you know so it is going to be very cool to see once everybody is able to get our hands on these. And again, I know we've kind of been saying this in terms of like the sync for a fat minute now, but hey, it is going to be so nice when we're all kind of just like on the exact same page and we can all just kind of enjoy the game together. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, so that is very exciting. Definitely looking forward to that coming out on global. And just like we were saying, hey, that's just more Dragon Stones in our pocket, baby. So nothing, no complaints from me on that front. I am definitely looking forward to it. I don't know if I mentioned on the last podcast or not. I did end up pulling Gohan Beast on global. I don't know if that was between now and then, but either way though, I did.
Nice.
Which is cool. So
was it off
he's the only
77?
anniversary unit I got.
Was it off the 77 ticket?
No, it wasn't actually.
Okay.
I got him from the top grossing stones actually, which was really cool. Funny enough, I can't get the 77 ticket right now because I am a lazy bum for global and I didn't farm Beerus, so I have to wait until the 8th. I know. But I will once he comes back, I'm gonna do it. And I don't know who I'm gonna use it on, to be honest. Probably not the Gammas. I do want Broly, but I also kind of want Gogeta. But so I don't know. I'll see.
Yeah.
Because obviously Broly, like I might do it on Gogeta just because obviously he'll come back less than Broly, and I have a ton of coins on global because like I just never spend my coins on global. So I might end up doing that. But either way though, yeah. I'll report in next week when I get from my 77 ticket summon. Yeah. That is basically everything in terms of content, I believe. Is there anything else that I'm missing before we get to the trash take?
I think that's it outside of the obviously
there is there's one thing I do want to point out that was talked about, and that is the discussion of there's two things I actually want to talk about. It's about the stuff that's not gonna be unified and about the special summon steps, right? So just to clarify, things that are not going to be unified is going to be, it says specifically character rarity type and link skills that are different from GP. Let's think about STR Pycon, who has prepared for battle on global and is a different type than Int Pycon on GP. Or physical Kaioken Goku, that on global he has shattering the limit, while in GP he has fierce battle. The super Kaioken Goku. But speaking of those characters, they said other abilities will be unified to the GP or international version settings. They did not talk about character stats. They only said rarity, type, and link skills. If you guys weren't aware, there's a difference between the stats on a GP and global for the Kaioken Goku and Pycon. And the issue is the global's level 1 stats are super high. So the difference between each level is a very small amount when you level up the character. That means that when they easy aid, the global version of those characters are going to have way less stats because there's a small amount of stats between each level compared to the GP version. Since they didn't specify that stats would not be will be kept the same, it's theoretically possible that those characters in the EZA, they could have their stats updated on the global version to match the Japanese version, because they did not specify that specifically, and they're usually very specific when it comes to these things. and they kind of outlay it. Like they specifically said rarity typing league skills.
One of the things that I thought was actually really interesting is just to sort of tack on to what you're saying about like stuff that they specifically mentioned, because we talked about a lot how communication is an issue with these guys sometimes. One thing I thought was quite interesting is like as a community, it's often been speculated, and I mean some people will have just taken it as a given, some people have put it down to things like gacha laws and stuff like that. But like the fact that they just straight up confirmed that Global gets tickets and step ups and stuff like that because we get the content later than JP. Like they just literally said word for word, like Global has got the international version has gotten this stuff because you're getting the units like 3 to 4 months later. But now after the sync, that's not going to be the case anymore. So the summoning system is going to be unified and updated, which is good because
so I wonder how they're going to handle it, but it's good that no matter what, GP and Global will be getting the same summon system, and it's still going to have some sort of special perks to it that, you know, because Global always had those special perks, but now it's just going to move the GP. Now, one other thing that's not going to be shared between the both versions is merchandise, including dragon stones that are discounted in packs. So I assume that means Pilaf Strobe is going to stay on Global and not be in GP. They mentioned it's because of the different like laws. I assume that's just because the GP version, you know, just has both different gacha laws, etc., stuff like that.
You know, with that merchandise comment, by the way, of course, me being the figurehead, I was kind of wondering, not the figures, because the figures you can buy here in the States. But I was wondering if that they were also referring to like the giveaways.
Yeah, because
during like special times when you summon on certain banners, you get those like there's like the colorful tickets that you can use to put into different like things in the actual shop, and then it enters you into a giveaway for like an IRL prize. Like that's why sometimes you've seen some JP players on Twitter who like live in Japan, right? They have like a Dokkan Battle CD with music on it, or like they have like a signed print of like Dokkan art, or you know, like something like that, right? It's like specific giveaway items that are only available in Japan. I was also kind of thinking, that was my first thought, that I would venture to guess that that's also probably what they're talking about, because that type of thing has always been JP exclusive, and I'm sure it's just easier to do in Japan because, you know, not only is it already set up, but also like look how much smaller JP is than the rest of the world. You know, so
it's just easier to do there, and plus there's like international giveaway laws probably regarding that or something like that. So it's like it's just easier to keep that in just Japan, right? And it is what it is, right? Because there's so many different laws around the world. Maybe that is what because it would make more sense, because they said like there's different laws around the world of each country, right? And it's like I guess it makes sense for the GP version, but at the same time, it's kind of like they're speaking from a global perspective. So it should be stuff that is from the GP version that's not coming to global, whilst we thought it would potentially be the opposite. But it could be that specifically. They do mention
it could be
packs,
both,
though,
honestly.
so it could still be both.
I think it could be both.
For sure. I do agree there. And what else was going to say? There's nothing really else I think that I was going to say. I forgot it. I think that was it, right? Just the stuff that wasn't shared in the summon system. What I will say, though, is I do want to point out, I think that we got the domain update, that what the domain effect boost, right, is what they were talking about in the teaser. A lot of people, I just want to say, a lot of people jumped the gun and were like, oh, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a domain update that will let us overlap them. And it's like, I think that was a fair assumption, but at the end of the day, the thing is,
we don't know.
Well, it says domain effect boost. It doesn't necessarily say it was an update. It's just an ally skill boost, right? And a lot of people assumed it would let you overlap things, but they said in the Dokkan producer letter that UI Goku's ability is a new ability. They explained it, and it's a new effect boost. And with how it lines up based on this release schedule, I'm assuming that this is just Tech UI Goku new ability to have the guarantee disabled. So I think it makes sense based off the release of him both in GP and Global. It lines up with the July-August kind of schedule. So I think that's what the domain effect boost was. And I just want to point that out. Maybe there's an update in August and I'm wrong, but I just want to say that.
Yeah, very true. It will be interesting to see, like you said, as always with stuff on Dokkan, A, don't assume, and B, we'll find out the information later.
Yeah.
I feel like half the time we say stuff on the podcast, like that's what it boils down to.
Well, it's like the fact that we had the original thumbnail for the podcast had AGL UI Goku in it, because obviously his EZA just came out on Global, and then we only found out like from the producer letter today. Well, it's still today for me because it was the early hours. I'm still on Friday over here. Yeah, I had to quickly message. It was like, can we have Tech UI Goku in there instead of AGL UI Goku? Because it's that literally just got announced. So yeah, stuff changes and updates all the time. But obviously, we'll do our best to let you guys know everything when we know. But it's going to be an interesting one because in theory, even if it's not Monday, if it is at some point during next week, that means by the next episode, UI Goku will be out on Global. So certainly going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Hopefully, hopefully when, again, I'm just praying for the stones, really. Like, at this point, I think that's kind of like what's imperative is that they really do a good job of giving out a bunch of stones. So hopefully, hopefully that is the case. But either way, though, that is it for what is currently on Global and what we have confirmed to be coming for all of those shenanigans. So hopefully, Global players are excited. I know I most certainly am, and I play JP, so that should tell you how good this stuff really is. But with that being said, I suppose it is time to move on to everybody's favorite part of the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the trash take. Now, I did pick the trash take for this week, and I think this is a pretty good one, personally. I know Ningen was also kind of eyeing this one up with me as we were discussing the trash take for this week. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. But our trash take for the week, put that bad boy up on the screen, my friend, and it reads: are we ready to accept that Carnival X Dokkan Fest is an awful format yet? Needing to wait until part 2 if you like the B-side Dokkan Fest more. Not being able to summon on the A side with discounts if you want to prioritize the B side. Inferior discounts for the B-side Dokkan Fest. This format is worse. So, I definitely have some opinions on this. I think this is like both, to be honest, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. I know I've been asking Ningen over and over questions. So Minato, what's the sitch, brother? How are we feeling about this one?
Well, the thing about this specific point that's being made with inferior discounts for the B-side Dokkan Fest, that's specifically for the special global 9th anniversary circumstance. In every other circumstance, the discounts and the time frame for the 3+1 have been the same for every other Carnival X DFE format. The only difference is that this time there is better discounts for the part 1 banners compared to the part 2s in terms of the mathematical calculations that people did. You would have a higher chance of getting the new character and the part 1 discounts. But also, even though it was better, it wasn't that big of a difference regardless. I still would see why the argument's there, but that's, again, for this specific instance and no other instance of the Carnival X Dokkan Fest exclusive format has been like that. You need to wait for part 2 if you like the B-side more. Guess what? If you like the B-side more, that means you get more stones rather than you only get the part 1 stones for the discount. Now you get the part 1 stones and the part 2 stones. So if you like the B-side Dokkan Fest more, you literally have more stones to summon with the B-side, right? So you could spend those stones that you would potentially get in part 2 on the part 1 banner if you really also want the part 1 character, right? And you could still summon on part 1 because you're going to get a lot more stones in part 2, daily login, events, EZAs, all this other stuff. right? Not even including, you could also get separate top grossing. It's more often than not, you're going to get top grossing in both the first part and the second part with the Carnival X Dokkan Fest format. Then, if the Dokkan Fest were both in part 1, you're just going to overall get less top grossing rewards as well, especially on the global version. When you get 7 stones per country, that does matter. It'll add up, right? Global end up, I'm pretty sure Global ended up getting more top grossing stones than what JP already got. And if it was just part 1, like between part 1 and part 2, countries could hit top grossing 2 times and you get the rewards twice for that too, right? It just, you get more stones to work with, right? And it's just a thing of, I don't want to wait, I just want to summon. But you will overall have a better summoning experience if you play your cards right? Because if you don't care about the part 1 Dokkan Fest in general, then you're just going to save for part 2 anyways. It's only a matter if you care for both, but that's where you just manage your stones properly. And you're gonna, if you care for both banners, you're gonna summon on both banners anyways. So it's still gonna be the same thing, except you're still gonna split your stones evenly. But then you're just gonna get the extra part 2 stones on top of that. So theoretically, you could put more stones in part 1 for that first Dokkan Fest than you would have been able to, because both banners are up at the same time. I don't know. I just don't see the point, except for this specific one-time incident that was only on global. Other than that, it's always been the same thing. So, and even on the global version, you use less stones for part 1 regardless, so you still would have more stones for the part 2 banner, which also would have tickets, plus the part 2 tickets. So if anything, getting extra stone discounts on the part 1 banners with the better steps, and you like the B-side Dokkan Fest more, but you also want the A-side Dokkan Fest, that just helps you out to have more stones with the B-side Dokkan Fest anyways, right? So I don't see, really thinking about it, I just don't see the point in this, saying that it's an awful format when you could just summon more. It doesn't make sense to me, right? It's only a matter of, I don't want to wait 2 weeks, but because I don't want to wait 2 weeks, I lose out on literally 100 to 200 extra stones to summon with as a free-to-play player.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things. I personally have been a fan of the Dokkan X Carnival format since it came out. I think it was, they kind of fumbled it when they first did it with the worldwide celebration with Cooler, mainly because the AGL Super Saiyans as the Dokkan Fest in part 2 were just nowhere near as good as Cooler, and arguably not as good as Birdcoo either. So it kind of removed the point, right? Because one of the ways to look at the DFE X Carnival format is that you don't have the same mistakes of Celebrations Past, where the 2 part 1 units are the ones that everybody wants, and then the 2 part 2 units no one cares about, and then part 2 kind of feels less exciting because the part 2 LRs no one really cares, right? The 8th anniversary last year, people do like those units, and I know some people did have certain levels of hype for them, but no one cared about Carnival Goku and Gohan in part 2, right? Everybody wanted the Buu duo or the GT duo. So in this way around, I think doing it the way they did it this year, although you could probably argue that maybe Beast Gohan was a little bit too good, too much better than Broly. I just mean in the sense that maybe he was a little bit too much better than
I'm being stupid.
a bit too much better than Broly and Gogeta. But it basically just means it just means that you have a big hype character in part 1, a big hype character in part 2, and then obviously Gogeta and the Gammas as the Carnival characters were hype as well, which is, I suppose it's a double-edged sword, right? Because as somebody who enjoys the game as a whole and wants the game to be good, wants the game to be fun, wants the game to be hype, ideally you want all 4 of the characters to be really good. But then I think people look at it more from the perspective of, especially with Global now being synced and us losing out on Foresight, because you have to remember when it comes to JP, they don't have that anyway. So think about the anniversary rolls around, we get new Broly and Gogeta. Broly has some of the best animations in the game, so everybody summons for the part 1 characters because they're both super hype, and then part 2 comes out and it's Beast Gohan and he's the best unit in the game. So then it's oh, well, now I really want the part 2 unit, but I spent loads of stones in part 1. I think that's the main reason why people don't like it, right? Is because they've kind of got used to knowing that the format is that the 2 units in part 1 are the ones that you really want, and then the 2 units that come out in part 2 are still good, but they're not as good, so you don't really care like as much about them.
Right.
And then obviously from like a money thing as well, like I've seen at least one person say in the chat, like the part 1 discounts end when the part 2 units come out. But I mean, the thing is, even if it's only by a couple of days, we see the information on the part 2 units before the discounts on the part 1 banners end, usually. So even when we move into this new era where we don't have foresight from JP, we'll still know what the part 2 units are going to be doing while the discounts are out on part 1. And so I think it does kind of tie into a little bit of like the sort of FOMO. Patience and FOMO thing, right? Yeah, because it's like, if you want to, now there's going to be no foresight, and if Dokkan Fest X Carnival is going to be a thing going forward for these big celebrations like the anniversary, then you either have 2 options, which is you just go with the flow and go with the hype, and then you can be in a position where part 2 starts and you don't have stones and you really want the part 2 character, and then you're going to struggle, especially if you're free to play. Or you, unfortunately, and this is the much less fun option, so I know nobody wants to hear it, but you don't summon straight away on part 1. Wait until, I know, right? Wait until we know what the part 2 units are going to be and what they're going to do. And then, obviously, if you want to summon for the part 1 characters, those banners will still be up. But it's just one of those things, like, nobody wants to be told, like, well, no, wait 2 weeks to do your summons, right? Everybody wants to summon straight away. But
and that's the thing, that's where FOMO comes into play, because you're seeing everyone else summon and you're like, oh, well, everyone else is summoning, I can't just sit around not using the character. And whilst I like get the sentiment, if you're a free-to-play player, you have to do what is the best buck for your stones, right? We got to like get the best buck for your stones is what I was trying to say, and make the correct decisions. Just because someone is gonna foolishly spend their stones and then part 2 rolls around, but I don't have any stones and this is my favorite character, it's their fault for not waiting to see. And at the end of the day, you'll still be summoning and potentially get the unit anyways. And I don't know, it's like a thing of it's literally just fear of missing out, seeing everyone else doing the summons, and you just have to
I mean, yeah, that's how gacha games work, exactly, right? And I mean, there's got, you know, whether people ignore those online all the time, whether it's for games or whether it's for people watching movies, even at home on DVD, I'm sure we all did when we were younger, watching movies that you're not supposed to watch because you're slightly too young. Like, Dokkan is a game that has an age rating because it has this, like, summoning system in it. It is a gacha game. It has gambling aspects to it. And so it's one of those things, if you're a free-to-play player or someone who spends a little bit, and obviously you're sensible with how you spend your stones, as much as it sucks to be told that, it's like, if unfortunately the smartest way to manage this kind of thing is that you just have to wait and not be like, oh, the part 1 banners are out, here we go, like I've logged onto the game, you know, 1 second after the banners come out, now I'm gonna rinse all my stones and then 2 weeks later it's like, oh, the part 2 unit is like my favorite character in Dragon Ball and now I've got no stones left. Like, I need to
point something else on chat from GC Gamer. This guy, if you wait and find out the unit sucks and the discounts are gone, the format sucks. That would be true, but name a single time where we have not found out the unit details before the discounts ended. Guess what? It's never happened. The discounts have always been up still a day or 2 after the part 2 unit details have been revealed. So that's the whole reason we're saying this in the first place. If it wasn't the case, then this wouldn't even be an argument in the first place, right? You know? So it's literally never happened. The part 1 discounts have always been up a day or 2 after the details have dropped for the part 2 characters. And I'm just going to say, a lot of the times, it's super obvious what the part 2 characters are going to be. Anniversary, it's like, oh yeah, Beast
Except for last year. But,
you know. Last year for the anniversary?
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of, you know,
I mean, I guess, but that was not the Dokkan Fest X Carnival format, so it doesn't even apply.
That is true.
It's one of those things as well, like, if it was something that, if this was a new game or they'd implemented like a completely new sort of system, not the Dokkan Fest X Carnival, I just mean like the way these big celebrations are structured, then it would be something that you maybe be surprised, but it's like we know with the worldwide and with the anniversary and stuff like that, we're going to get these 2 big ticket units in part 1, and then we're going to get 2 big ticket units in part 2. So it's not like you don't know that there's something potentially coming out in like 2 weeks time that you might like or might think is more hype. Like, you know, it's not like you don't know that that's going to happen. I think it is just one of those things, as much as it sucks, because we all get excited to summon. And then, yeah, it's kind of one of those things that if you do have to be careful with your stones because you're free to play or you don't spend a lot, then, yeah, unfortunately, you do kind of have to wait a little bit. You know, and it sucks, but that's just how it is, unfortunately.
It's just a thing where a lot of the Dokkan player base, I'm just going to be honest, are impulsive and jump to either conclusions or just jump on things, right? I mean, that's kind of it, low key. I mean,
the thing is, it's understandable,
it's not like obviously
right?
like an addiction, but it's understandable, yeah, that people want to summon instantly, but that's just where the FOMO comes into play.
Exactly.
I would say, like someone in chat right now, Philip said, we were expecting Cell Max because I said earlier, we're expecting Beast Gone part 2 and he came. If you're expecting Cell Max and he didn't come, like I think Dokkan Assets was someone was expecting Cell Max, right?
Yeah.
It's a thing of, okay, well, Cell Max is not there. Do I still want to summon a part 1? The discounts are still up. Or do I just want to save? Maybe I'll summon a Beast a little. Maybe I'll just wait for Cell Max to come out and have extra stones to save for him. It's like still the same difference, right?
I think I think all your points are valid, right?
I want to say Reba Class did say in chat it's not his
opinion. Here's something I want to say as well, right? In regards to that, bro, if this is not your take, I am begging you in the future, for all of you who watch the podcast, please tell us so we're not like grrr at you, right? Then we can be like grrr at whatever sneaky gamer made this take, right? So, you know, tell us if it's not your take in the comments, please, because we don't want to be like, you know, well, you're a little bit of a silly Billy there, my friend, you know? So definitely, please, like, let us know. If it's not your take when you give this to us. However,
it's still entertaining either way.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I agree with all of your guys' points, right? So I'm not even gonna bother like touching that because I just be repeating what you're saying. Excuse me. I think the only other thing that I would have to say, right, because I agree with everything of, you know, like this is a one-time instance and, you know, like we already know when the discounts are there what the units are going to be and yada yada yada. I think the other thing that is like taken out of the equation for this take that's not really being discussed, I guess, is also the fact that it's just another instance for these carnival characters to come back again sooner, because obviously without the carnival format, right, it would be a lot less frequent that these characters would be coming back, a lot less opportunities to buy them with the carnival coins. And I know that may seem like, well, that's a little bit silly because you could just replace that with another Dokkan Fest, right? That would be the idea, is that, you know, that could be a Dokkan Fest rather than a carnival. But with the level that the anniversary carnival characters are on, right, I think that it's only a benefit, at least in my opinion, that these guys are carnival units because they are, you know, like that powerful, right? They're obviously, you know, like super strong, you know, like they're on the level of the Dokkan Fest units. And it obviously just gives another opportunity for you to pull more of these unfeatured LRs that you might not have, and it gives you a you know, like opportunity to you know, obviously like pick them up with coins and, you know, these units to return. Now, with that being said, it does kind of almost inadvertently go back into the issue of like, well, the carnival units then don't come back that often because obviously you know, throughout the year there isn't a whole lot of carnival banners. But I just think personally, any opportunity that we can get to be able to get some of these carnival characters, I think is a good thing, right? in my opinion, anyway. So I feel like that's also a plus. But basically, yes, I agree with all of you guys. And honestly, like, maybe it's just because I'm a Dokkan vet. You know, I've been through the trenches of Dokkan Battle. But I think that this format is more fun to summon on personally. That's just definitely opinion rather than like cold hard fact, right? But I think that it's just more fun to summon on because it gives you a little bit more variety in your summons. And also, it's definitely like, it's just more units that you're not like seeing as often in your summons, right? Like usually if you're somebody who's summoning on Dual Dokkan Fests, you're really not going to be like seeing these, you know, unfeatured LRs that often or Carnival LRs that often in your summons because it's usually not banners that you're going to touch. But because the banners are a little bit more incentivized to be you know, like good with the main unit on it, you'll now get some of these characters that some of them are imperative now, right? Like before, maybe not so as much, but now, you know, we have like Broly, Chila, and Lemo who are amazing. We have Team Universe 7 and, you know, Frieza and 17, right? And those are obviously only characters that you're going to be getting through the unfeatured pool. So I think it's just more fun to summon on, in my opinion, getting a little bit more variety. And not to mention, for me, somebody who's been summoning on the game for a long time, obviously just with the nature of the game, you tend to summon and get more Dokkan Fest characters than you do unfeatured LRs and Carnival characters, right? Because there's more Dokkan Fest banners, so you're getting more Dokkan Fest characters, right? And I know for me, and probably a lot of people who have been playing the game for a while, we have a lot of these Dokkan Fest characters either rainbowed, or it's like, dog, I could just not care about pulling this unit, and they're not rainbowed. It's like, bro, I just don't care. So, with that being said, right, I think in that regard, it's more fun for me to then summon on the Carnival banner because then it's like, okay, well, you know, of course I have some unfeatured LRs rainbowed over the years, but there's still some that I don't have, you know, rainbowed. There's still some that I don't even have at all, right? That I've just never been able to pull, right? Like AGL, Future Gohan and Trunks, don't have them. I think I mentioned this last week too. Super 17, right? The GOAT of Ningen, don't have them, right? So it's just opportunities to pull those characters, right, that I normally wouldn't have if it was Dokkan Fest format. And it's nice that I'm actually getting some of these characters, you know, more like dupes in them and just copies of them and stuff that normally would just be my millionth copy of UI Goku, the AGL one, since I still don't have the tech one, you know, then like I just can't use, right? So it's something that I can actually put to use in my box rather than getting, you know, my 5th SSR rainbow copy of a unit. So like even on a Jiren's banner, I didn't end up getting Jiren, but in 3 multis, I had the LR5 guys was only 55, and now they're rainbow, or not rainbow, they're 90 rather. They're 90%. So, you know, I don't know. I think it's just like I personally prefer the format because I think it just allows for a more interesting summoning experience, and it allows players to get some of these characters that they might not normally be able to get their hands on because they may not be summoning on it normally. And not to mention, some of these characters now are up there for contention of, you know, top 10 best units in the game. So obviously you're going to want to grab these guys. So yeah, I think that's basically it for me. On this, I would say personally, this is an L. We have 72 votes on this poll, it looks like. Ningen, what are we looking at in terms of our numbers here?
It's actually a lot more even than you would expect. So I'm going to end the poll here. Shout out to everyone who took part. It comes out as 52% L and 47% W. Obviously, YouTube doesn't like to round up to 100. But yeah, very split in the chat. So certainly an L to me. Weebleclass did say it was posted on the Reddit right after the data download.
Yeah,
so yeah, largely
that.
someone probably annoyed that the summon format changed between part 1 and 2, which of course we did talk about last week as well. But yeah, definitely very close for that one. So
yeah, I think that you know, it's also definitely a little bit of I think this also kind of, I hate to say this because I feel like I also say this a lot for the trash takes, but this also kind of sounds like somebody who got shafted.
yeah.
Like, I hate to say that because it happens to us all and we all complain about it. Look at me, hello. But, you know, this kind of sounds like somebody who can't take the, like, objective side of things because they're angry that they themselves got shafted, right?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, we've talked about this before when we've talked
yeah.
about the Dokkan Fest X Carnival format, is even though they've kind of swapped around the banners, right? So if you want to look at it in the old style, Dokkan Fest X Carnival basically now means we're getting one of the part 1 units and one of the part 2 units in part 1, and then the other part 1 and then the part 2 in part 2, right? Because they used to be double Dokkan Fest and double Carnival. But the thing is, going into it, you just kind of have to think about it as that still being the case, right? So when the 2 banners drop in part 1, you want to prioritize summoning on the Dokkan Fest banner and then not summon on the Carnival banner if you want to obviously prioritize then who the part 2 Dokkan Fest is going to be. It's basically just as if, like, imagine if during the 6th year, I know that's not the best example because they were on the same banner because they did the old top legendary summon format back then, but it's like, imagine if for the 7th anniversary they dropped like the LR gods and then a banner that had Tech Giant 8 Vegeta, and then part 2 was the LR Super Saiyan 4s and a banner with STR Kaioken Goku. Like, you'd still be prioritizing the Super Saiyan 4s and the gods, right? Just because the Great 8 Vegeta banner dropped in part 1 alongside the Dokkan Fest banner doesn't mean you should be going crazy summoning on it and then have no stones for part 2, right? So it's essentially, they've still got the 2 banners which are not as good, even if the units are good, because they are Carnival banners and they have these like unfeatured LRs and, like, you know, even the Carnival banners, like the Gamma's banner is much better than Gogeta, but it has those 3 random featured SSRs like the STR Trunks, Physical Blue Vegeta and STR God Goku. Dude, like, that is not a great banner,
how
right?
Disheartening that was to get like one of the like the
guaranteed featured animation, yeah.
And, and I'm like, all right,
STR Trunks.
Dude, that happened to me twice. I wanted to throw my phone.
I got the like, I think it was like the animation where it's like Piccolo and then Beast for like the cut-ins that come up, and then the multi was just like Ultimate, it was just like Physical Blue Vegeta. It's like, bruh, come on.
I feel like some of those animations, like, I understand that the way that it works is that it's because it's a featured unit. But I feel like when it comes to those animations, I feel like it should only be for Dokkan Fest or LR.
Yeah, like the main ones, right? Like the first 4 units on the banner should have like a special priority, and like they're the only ones that get the special animations. But
yeah, like there's no way that you're telling me anybody's excited to pull Fizz Blue Vegeta, unless maybe you never pulled him before. But like, there's no way, you know, you with 15 copies in your box, I see you out there, you're valid, is excited to pull that unit, right? And I think to your point, by the way, about like the whole thing of like, oh, it's basically just like they took a yellow coin banner and then just kind of split it in half and put it in each part. I think the thing that people also don't really like think about, or it maybe just doesn't come to mind, is the fact that this is all the Carnival thing. It's just marketing. It's just a marketing gimmick to be able to, you know, like make it feel more special, and for them to use the Rising Dragon Carnival format in a more like grandiose way, right? Like, realistically, the name change and then like how they're handling it is, it's just marketing to make it seem like, oh wow, so cool, Carnival character, right? Like that's really what it is at the end of the day, right? It's just they're using marketing tactics to make you as the consumer feel like that you're getting something greater than what you've already been getting for years, right? It's quite literally like how Apple does it with the new iPhone, right? It's like they try and make you think that it's like the second coming of Christ every new iPhone that comes out, and it's really not that different than the last, right? It's kind of a similar thing. But anyway, that's it for the trash take. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all of your submissions. Much appreciated. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. It seems like that you did. I will throw it over to Ningen now, because obviously we have the donos, and then we will be done. So
yes, so shout out to everybody who sent in super chats, memberships, all that good stuff. Thank you for helping to support the podcast. We have a great one, of course, straight away with everybody in the chat talking about Theo and his new haircut. We have Philip Rodriguez with the $2 super chat that says, "Who's that filling in for Dokkan assets?" So we got our boy looking sharp over here.
That's
so
That's
bro
funny.
got the Deku haircut.
shout out to Philip for that. We got the our boy Norbert re-upped his channel member for 25 months. Skip to Beast Gohan as promised. I'm going to skip Tech Silverhead Base Goku as well. Norbert, for those of you who are not aware at this point, the regulars in the community, of course, is our certified local super hater. Loves GT, hates Super, so things like Beast, UI, Topo Jiren, he hates all that stuff.
All right, I got the MO.
So shout out to him for re-upping his membership.
Sourpuss, no, I'm kidding.
Then we have our boy Raudo-kun gifted a membership as well, so we appreciate you. We have Weeb of Class, of course, the star of the Trash Take segment for this week, even though it wasn't his take, coming in hot with the $15 super chat. He says, global players better have some Zenny saved up, because if they catch up with Easy A's this month and a world tournament, we could see around 20 characters Easy A. That is a good point. Now, one thing, I guess, to mitigate that, of course, it's still up at the moment. I have to remember to keep doing mine because it's so tedious to go through it. Is there's that special friend banner up at the moment. And obviously now, like, because they've not brought out a friend summon LR for years, I'm assuming they're just not going to do that anymore. That banner just sits untouched. Like, the last time I would have summoned on it would have been last year for the anniversary version. So I've got so many friend points now that obviously it just shows us the, like, 99 plus for the number of summons that I can do. But it's so tedious to sit. I'm literally doing some now because I've just remembered, but it's so tedious to like sit and just click through, because sometimes you are getting lucky, right? And you're getting these Kais, like sometimes it's just the dozing Kais. I actually just got I got a tech Grand Kai and a physical Grand Kai in that one, so that's pretty good. But a lot of the other times, especially because some of the cards are already awakened, you'll get like a Super Saiyan 3 animation, and it's just because you're getting like SSR Tech Hercule or like a Hercule statue. So you're sitting and clicking and clicking and clicking and going through all these multis, and some of the times you're literally just getting multis full of like Rs and SRs and then like Hercule statues.
That's crazy.
So it takes ages. And then obviously you have to clean your box out afterwards of all the R's and all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of annoying, but at least that is a thing that is available, right? So if you guys are using your friend points on that, you can get a bunch of Hercule statues and things like that, because yes, damn, I should have waited to use all of these on the podcast. I just did the second one and got 2 Int Kais and an AGL one. So
dang, he's cooking.
All the luck coming in clutch now. So, but yes, good ways to stock up on Zenny is that, and then of course doing easy A's past stage 30, especially if you can pick out some of the easy ones. If you pulled Beast, the one I'm doing at the moment, like,
you'll be fine,
is physical Goku Black's easy A.
I got a Super Saiyan 3 as well.
Physical Goku Black's easy A is super. The weakness is Super STR Goku family. So you just build a team with beasts and like doing it on auto. I'm up to like stage 560 or something. So get tons of Zenny that way. But yes, lots of easy A's incoming. So you got to make sure you got Zenny for all of those. But yes, the easy A's coming is definitely hype, but it does cost a lot of Zenny.
I was going to say too, the only thing I'll say about that is, man, like with the doing this so much, I already knew, like, I think everybody in the community agrees by this point, considering Dokkan's basically the only game that doesn't have it. But we need a summon skip button, please, bro. This would be so helpful for this, and not to mention, like, if they did a thing for this one specifically, where, because, you know, you were saying it's so tedious to do all the multis, it's like they should have, like, just 100 summon or something for this one.
Oh my god.
But if they did without a skip button, people already knew how brutal it was. Like, it was fun because you're getting all these characters, but for the 77 ticket summon, that is so long that takes. There's no way that for like all those friend summons that would be fun going through 100 characters per without a skip button. They need a skip button.
Also,
anyway.
give me a sell all R's button, please, because that would be very good as well.
It's nice.
Just automatically, don't even put them in my box.
Characters.
Like, as soon as I get them on a summon, like, don't even put them in my box. Just delete them for Barber points immediately for me. That would be great.
That could be, honestly, that could be a setting that you could turn on.
Yeah,
like, it wouldn't be on by default, but you could go and turn it on if you wanted to.
Yeah, just auto, as soon as the multi, like, is processed, it just auto trades in, like, R's, and you could set it for SRs if you wanted to as well. Like, that'd be great. But yeah, shout out to Weeble Class for that one. Make sure you guys stock up on your Zenny for all these easy A's. Then we have shout out to Prof for re-upping his membership 15 months. Do you think Dokkan should rework the naming pattern and introduce timeline shorts for every character? So for example, all the GT characters have brackets GT after them. So they could do the same for Dragon Ball, Xeno, obviously for the heroes characters, Super for the super characters, which would obviously make a huge distinction for characters like Goku and Trunks and stuff like that. I think that would be a good idea. I think it was something we were saying back in the day when they first released AGL Gogeta and Physical Broly, was that if Broly didn't have like bracket Super after his name, then obviously he would have the same name as the Z Broly, which of course he does. So I think that's something that would be good. Obviously, will they do that? I don't know, probably not.
No.
But, we can't even get Zamasu with the different name, right? So probably not.
Oh, but we can get Beerus pajamas though, you know. So.
But yeah, that would be cool, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately. I mean, the Xeno versions, we do kind of get that already, right, with the heroes characters, which is useful, because at least they have the different names. Shout out to the Super Saiyan, Xeno Goku, and Xeno Vegeta that should easy A this year, and will be very good, hopefully.
I think the thing that just makes that so weird is the fact that the GT characters have that and just no one else in the game does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they didn't have it, it would be like, okay, yeah, sure. But it's like, why make the distinction for GT but not everything else? My thought process was always that it's because Super is canon and GT's not. But also, I think they did that before Super even released, if I'm remembering correctly, but I could be wrong on that because Dokkan was around during the early days of like Super, and then I guess more like technically the Z movies that then became the Super canon. So I don't know. I always thought that was like the reasoning, but that also could be flawed because I'd have to double check the timing on how that all works and shakes out. But I don't know. I maybe
definitely is something that they should do. It would be very beneficial for running some of these characters together, but unfortunately they probably won't. So shout out to JC Gamer for the $5 super chat. It says Tenor should have come in June. Doing it now was a huge mistake. Doing it now requires a lot of compensation for the lack of resources to get him. So I'm assuming it means UI Goku. The problem is if they released him in June, then it's just they released him right before the anniversary. So it's still the exact same issue, basically.
My theory right now is that Global will get some sort of special summon thing. I think it's like theoretically possible that UI Goku can get the discounts that you guys
part one. Yes, I was thinking that as well. That could be interesting. So it's like the do 3 get one free, and then do 3 and the third one's guaranteed featured. Like that could certainly be very interesting.
Global does get discounts with the UI Goku banner. JP doesn't ever JP doesn't even get. I don't even think JP gets 3+1, but Global. Actually, I guess I should double check it before I say it for sure.
Wait, for which banner?
For the UI Goku banner, yeah. See, UI Goku's banner,
it's just
doesn't
regular.
ever get 3+1 or anything.
The only 3+1 is the Tanabata banner itself.
Global does get 3+1 in that banner, though, like the actual like normal banner, right? In terms of the Tanabata banner with Beast and Broly, I would still think that might be just in Christmas for Global.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Right. Just out of
because. But it's like that's not a banner that needs to be put any specific time because it's only returning characters, right?
Yeah, but in terms of
no, go on. Just because the anniversary characters return, and I would assume that they're gonna make them available with coins.
Yeah. I was just going to say, in terms of the take, it's just one of those things that, like, it would have happened either way, right? Like, if they'd released it in June, people would have complained, why are you releasing him right before the anniversary? Because that's, those are my stones that I'm saving for Beast. So, unfortunately, whether they'd released him, like, right before or right afterwards, I feel like people would still complain anyway. And as we said earlier in the episode, as much as it's a painful process until it happens, like, for the sync to happen, this is kind of what has to happen, right? It's just loads of stuff coming out all at once. And at the end of the day as well, he says, like, a lot of compensation is required because of the lack of resources. I mean, they don't want to give us compensation if they're going to drop extra units. They want you to spend money, because at the end of the day, if you are free to play and you don't summon for the character, that doesn't really affect them at all. But if you are a spender and you buy stones, them dropping more banners in quick succession to get the game synced then just potentially makes them more money. So it's unfortunate from a player perspective, but basically with what we know about how they're planning to do the sync and stuff dropping, even if we'd gone by what we were expecting before, sync for worldwide, and then they just have to drop UI Goku somewhere in November, he would have still been sandwiched in between whatever JP and then Global were getting at the same time as the November Dokkan Fest, and then something else like Heroes, if we are still getting it this year. Then UI Goku would have just had to be dropped like in between them, so he still would have come out essentially in between a bunch of banners also coming out at the same time. So unfortunately, that's just kind of, to get the games to be synced, that's kind of what they have to do, which is unfortunate if you're someone who wants all of these units, but yeah, it comes back to that.
We're going to be getting complaining regardless, unfortunately. It's
exactly
the way that it is.
But yeah, hopefully people get lucky. Hopefully they'll do something special. Like we said, hopefully that thank you reward thing will be a nice amount of stones, but we'll have to wait and see. So shout out to Sokodo for re-upping his membership, 11 months. 1 more month till we hit gold, for the 1 year badge. Good luck on those summoning for UI Goku on Global, especially if your wallets and stones right now before worldwide celebration. Yeah, it's going to be brutal. If you were somebody who wanted to try and make it out of the anniversary with a decent amount of stones to still summon for worldwide, then this is like the worst news you could have gotten, I guess, with the UI Goku coming out. So
unless the worldwide units are garbage, then maybe that would be good in this case for Global.
Wow, yeah. But of course, we won't know what they do. Yeah, exactly, until it's too late. But
look, it's okay. Goku, Frieza, Broly, and then Super Saiyan Goku, Gohan, and Trunks will be just fine. Okay.
We shall see. We shall see. So shout out to Sokodo, shout out to Talus for the $5 super chat. I think UI Goku won't come out until the 12th, as we still have 9 days left of sales. We've never had 2 sales at the same time. Yeah, that's kind of the thing we were saying about before, right? That's where people think that the Topo banner is going to drop. It is interesting they could do, because maybe they won't add new sales, because technically we still have the Beast sales, and then new sales will come out for Topo. But it's like Minato was saying, and I think Prof mentioned it in the chat as well, Global obviously has the option where they can add extra things into the shop in those other tabs in the Pilaf Trove. So they could add something like a pack where, because they're not adding specifically just stone sales, they could add a thing where it's like, you get like 7 tickets or something to someone on the banner, but you also get like 50 stones, right? They can put stone packs in with other things and just put them in the other tabs in the shop. So they could do that, or they could just add sales. I mean, I guess because they haven't done it before, but they've never synced the games before, right? So in theory, they could do something completely random, but I guess we will have to wait until the day the Goku banner comes out to find out. So he also says World Tournament next weekend, so please God, no, but we'll see. Probably, to be fair, because doesn't JP have one coming up soon?
Yep.
It's not,
yep.
Yeah. So
on the 16th, 17th, so it'll be that week.
Because Global had caught up, and obviously now it's just this one extra one behind. I wouldn't be surprised if Global gets that one very soon. Maybe even like a week or 2 after JP gets it, but we'll have to see.
I would assume it's going to be the same weekend, so.
It could even be, yeah, because going forward after worldwide,
will be the worldwide countdown. So
true. So there you go. Shout out to Philip Rodriguez for gifting 5 channel memberships. Appreciate you. Then we have Drace with the $5 super chat. He says, "You guys are the goats, so thank you for a lit podcast. Have Raudo on more. He's a goat and deserves it. Skip UI and save for the Bio Broly agenda."
Who?
Bio Broly.
Is this a Mr. Baby alt account?
I know, right? I don't know about the Bio Broly part, but the rest of it, yeah, shout out to you. I'm sure we'll have Raudo on again at some point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, appreciate you, Drace. And then we have Talus World coming in here at the end with a 10. I said dollars before, but Talus is a fellow UK boy, so it's 10 Great British pounds. I want to thank you all for the subtle ways they're making power creep. Sorry. I want you all to think about. I was like, wait, why are you thanking us about power creep? I want you all to think about the subtle ways they're making power creep by having from start of turn a lot more, and the new events having increased stats each turn, so you can't stall and stack anymore. I think it's been interesting. I think there's a lot of events, things where you can like lower attack and stuff like that. I think have kind of mitigated some of the difficulty, because the power creep has pretty much just been bosses hit you harder. So by having some of these bosses like being able to be attack lowered and stuff like that, I think is very, very useful. Especially if you're somebody who doesn't really care too much about items. Like we talked about with Kid Buu, and now when the Blue Gogeta stage came out, there's that Robo Guide item, which is like a Ghost Usher, and then the next turn the enemy gets minus 66% attack. So against bosses that you can attack lower, that item is insanely powerful. So things like that I think are very good. Power creep has certainly been interesting. Obviously for global, we're feeling the effects now with the release of Beast Gohan. JP obviously got that Goku and Frieza stage, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, things have been interesting power creep wise. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts on power creep in general, but that was the final comment. So if you guys have any closing thoughts on that one that you want to add.
10th Annie will be crazy. That's all I gotta say about that.
True.
I love Dokkan.
Well, there you go. We are Dokkan.
So. We are Dokkan.
We are Dokkan.
Well, there you go. That's all of the super chats, memberships, donos, etc. from today's episode. So thank you all very much for helping to support the show.
Awesome. We love to see it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming by. Really, really appreciate it. This has been episode 48 of the podcast. Let's get some We Are Dokkans in the chat. Let's go, baby. You love to see it. Obviously, we will be back next week for some more chat about our lovely Dokkan Battle game. Obviously, next week, we will have quite a bit of stuff, actually. We should know, when UI Goku is coming. We may even have some information about Topo. We'll probably have a little bit more stuff for JP. We may know, I don't think we know the Videl EZA details, thinking that she might be the EZA or whatever the EZA will be, but we might know, whether or not it's confirmed to be her by that point. So we will see you all next week. Thank you all so much for coming by. Have a fantastic weekend. Hopefully, if you are still summoning for the boys, definitely good luck trying to get that beast. And from myself, Dokkan Assets, Minato's Flash, and the Masked Ningen, we will see you in the next one. Have a good one.
Peace out.